biographical People vs. Larry Flynt tells the story of one man's rise from poor Kentucky child moonshiner to a titan of the porn industry with the help of his Hustler magazine empire. Along with his wife Althea and attorney Alan Isaacman, Larry Flynt battles censorship, drugs, the Supreme Court, an attempted assassination, paraparesis, his own deteriorating mental health, and worst of all, the Reverend Jerry Falwell. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode we'll be covering 1996 The People vs. Larry Flynt, directed by Milos Forman. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, jerks and jerkettes? Welcome back to Midnight Double Feature. We're covering The People vs. Larry Flynt, as you heard in the beginning. The Althea to my Larry, the Jergens to my Kleenex. Zohab Ali, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, dude. Look at all these track marks on my arms, man. Like,
I killed my husband, Kurt Cobain. It's so crazy.
Yeah, man. I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm really keen to talk about this movie. This is our last podcast of the year.
I know. That's very weird. That's very weird to think about. It feels
such a weird, such a weird year. Let me sit back and reminisce for a sec. Let me just be like,
do it.
And let me toot our own horns. We had a great year in terms of not really missing an episode. Did we miss an episode this year? I'm really struggling.
No, if anything, we did too many of them and packed them too close together.
We actually, we ended up tripling our workload with the bonus feed and then Bad Crystal. But we had a great year, man. This 2020, as shit of a year it was, we did really well, in terms of just how lucrative the podcast became, how amazing our members were, and how just our support. Just the support that was shown towards us, and we can't be more grateful. So yeah, I'm just I've been really kind of reflecting the past couple of days just about how well everything's been going.
No, yeah, for sure. I actually posted something in the after party. If you guys want to join any of our socials, Facebook at Midnight Double Feature, Instagram at Midnight Double Feature, Twitter at MDF Pod. You can find us over
Ladies
Midnight Double Feature.
Mr. Conway, Twitter.
Yeah. You can find us midnightdoublefeature.com, and you can also join our group called the After Party. That's on Facebook. Everybody's invited. And please stop by, rate, review us on iTunes. But with all that out of the way, you can also find us on Patreon, patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature. And that's kind of what we're talking about. As I posted something in the After Party. And I was like, it's been crazy. I got laid off. I was doing DoorDash deliveries for 3 months. And it's just kind of a crazy year. Bought a house and, started doing this. We launched Bad Crystal. We also were very successful with a lot of interviews that mainly that was Zoheb and Matt kind of spearheading that. And it was, very strange. And there is a weird thing of when a lot of people around you are not succeeding and you are succeeding, you do feel kind of I don't know how I feel about that. But
I'm sorry.
Right, exactly. But at the same time, we worked very hard for this. And, obviously, if we didn't think people wanted to listen, we would not have made that leap. So the fact that people are reviewing, people are signing up for Patreon, it definitely means the world to us. And we're
totally
right. So with Christmas being the birth of Christ, I had to go with the antithesis of that, which was Larry Flynt. No, I'm just kidding.
Before we do, I just, this being the last episode of the year, I just wanted to take a second to shout out our patrons. And I'm just going to read them off because you guys, seriously, as much as we do this, it's really, really crazy to just wake up in the morning and see that someone signed up for the Patreon. And it's just are you serious, dude? You're paying us? That is insane.
Right.
So thank you so much to these guys. We really, really appreciate it. And we can't have done, we do things specifically for everyone, but for you guys especially, thank you so much. Danielle Cutter, first off the bat, she signed up this morning. Thank you so much, Danielle. She's very outspoken in the after party, which is amazing. Roger Hernandez, thank you so much, Roger. My best friend, Damien McKay. Thanks so much, cool. Dude. We're having dinner tonight. We're having Christmas dinner tonight. So
cool.
So much, man. The food better be cooked. That's all I'm saying. and I don't have a full name here, but Voss451, thank you so much. Chris Schrader of the Hey Do You Remember podcast, thank you so much, Chris. Damien's missus, Olivia Crow, I love you, Olivia. She is
I love
expecting.
You too. No, I'm just kidding.
She is expecting, and I can't wait to meet him or her in April, dude. I'm so excited for you, Liv. Dean from LSG Media, thanks so much, Dean. I mean, we've reminisced so many times on the podcast about how this wouldn't exist without LSG Media. So thank you so much, Dean. Mm-hmm. Carlos Freitas of Hey Do You Remember? Thanks so much, Carlos. Carlos is now, he's someone who it's not just a guest that we've had on the podcast. Carlos is someone that we talk to pretty much on a, if not a day-to-day basis, then like a weekly basis. Like, we talk with him a lot. And, our two, like, I guess, champions or OGs, day one signups, Jose Rivera and Patrick Harrington, dude. Thank you so much, you two especially. Like, you guys are like our champions. Like, if this was the times of Gladiator, Roman times, you guys would be, as we're coming out of the gate in the Colosseum, you guys are carrying the torches for us and being like, and presenting, that's you two. So thank you so much, guys. Oh, you know what? Maybe the best analogy is, goddamn, I'm forgetting his name, but from
Geoffrey Chaucer from A Knight's Tale.
Yes,
I was just thinking that.
Yes, Ulrich von Liechtenstein.
He studied so and so just to understand better of the silence or whatever the fuck he says.
I can't believe you picked up on that. That's amazing. But yeah, look, guys, thank you so much. We really appreciate your patronage, Patreon, whatever. Again, this is incredible and just absolutely amazing to see. So thank you so much for the support, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Thank you guys so much. And, I honestly, I think out of, there's only a couple of people in there that we don't personally know. That's always a great sign of growth. We always really are excited to have strangers listening to us. And, which is funny because there's a guy in this movie who looks so much like Patrick Harrington to me. And I feel like he would be the movie. He pops up a couple of times. He's the one who's like, Althea, I'm sorry, I think some things are sacred. And your friend's like, shut the fuck up. Like that guy, he looks like Patrick Harrington to me. Like not exactly, but if you had to play him in a movie. But yeah, I mean, with that out of the way, we hope you guys have a good New Year. We'll catch you later. We're heading out. No, I'm just kidding. It feels like a wind down, not a rev up.
Head out. Yeah, I know.
But no, I was gonna say, obviously, dittoing everything that Zoheb said. We've had a lot of success this year. We trudged through a lot of stuff and a lot of group chats, a lot of trying to logistical figuring stuff out. When there's 4 people and you're triple your workload, there's a dozen more problems right there. And we were able to hash everything out, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'm excited to see what 2021 does. For the podcast and where we're going to take it from there. But beyond that, getting back to this goddamn movie, The People versus Larry Flynt. So I picked this, and honestly, no, not because it's the antithesis to Christ, but but honestly, I kind of forgotten about it, and I just kind of picked it up. I don't know when I first watched it. I remember talking about it with my friend Jesse. And he's one of the only people that's my age that's a big fan of this movie. And it's kind of been a little forgotten as terms of like biopics go and stuff. But what's interesting is everybody knows who Hugh Hefner is. A lot of people don't know who Larry Flynt is, but there's no movie about Hugh Hefner. That's weird. As far as I know, I've never heard of one, So I thought it was an interesting pick. We haven't done a lot of like biopics, but it's also like it's a biopic. It's a comedy with like romance, but also courtroom drama. So it's got a lot of stuff, and it's almost like a black comedy in a way. I feel like it just reeks of comedic vibes. I love Woody Harrelson in it. His brother, Brett Harrelson, is actually his brother. And I was like, son of a bitch. I had no idea. Everybody in this, I think, is pretty perfect. Vincent Schiavelli, James Cromwell as Edward Norton, yeah. I don't love Courtney Love is just, she sticks out to me in this movie. And I don't know, she's not bad. You know, she doesn't stink. She doesn't bring down the movie, but she does stick out to me. And there's moments where she's brilliant when she's all fucked up and she's acting like she's on drugs. I mean, come on. But I feel like that's autobiographical for her. I know how fucked up it is to say that, but there's just moments it didn't stick the landing for me. But what about you?
Well, I was just going to say, man, like, I feel like she really, really reminded me of the Sharon Stone character in Casino. Like, you know,
okay.
we meet, we have this great time, and then I discover drugs, I discover greed, Courtney Love doesn't discover greed, but like, you know, I discover drugs and I can't get away from it. And that ends up being my downfall. And like, it just ends up like, I don't know, like that, like the entire time I'm watching this, by the way, my thoughts on the movie, I didn't have much of a history because this is the first time watching this. Surprise, surprise. You know, like I'm watching it and I'm just like, man, like this really reminds me of Sharon Stone's character from Casino. But yeah, dude, I completely echo your thoughts. This is a really, really compelling. I was full on expecting a drama, and it is a drama. There are dramatic elements in it, but I would, yeah, definitely land on black comedy. Like it is just supposed to be until we get to like that kind of like last third where, you know, Courtney Love's character overdoses and drowns herself. Like until we get to that, it's all a little kind of like lighthearted. Like, you know, it's all a little like, I can't believe we're doing this. Like, you know, I can't believe we're showing pornography. We're putting out pornography on the streets. Like it's crazy. So the movie relies on that a lot. And I was totally surprised that this was about the creation of Hustler. Like I had no idea it was about this. I had never looked into this movie at all. I'd obviously heard of Milos Forman. And I'd never seen a movie from Milos Forman. Like, I'd always wanted to see the three big ones, which is this, Amadeus, which, by the way, won 8 Oscars.
I never saw that. I need to watch that.
Won 8 Oscars, and of course, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which took home 5 Oscars. Like, you know, like, I've never seen these 3 giant kind of, like, movies. And, you know, Milos Forman unfortunately died 2 years ago. But, yeah, like, he was just so incredibly influential with just those 2 movies alone, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus. So, you know, like it was a bit of a man, like I hate that I'm coming too late to this director's work after he's passed away. Like, you know, like I wish I kind of, you know, took some time to go back into this director's kind of like filmography that I'd heard of and, you know, who's been just critically lauded, but I just didn't, unfortunately. And you know, this being my introduction to Milos Forman was fantastic. This is a great, really well put together movie. Great actors. Woody Harrelson is incredible, dude. He was nominated for Best Actor for this, and I didn't think he won. Like, but he was definitely nominated, and it was really well deserved. I think this is the year of Forrest Gump, if I'm not mistaken. Right, 1996.
I think Forrest Gump is 94.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm Googling.
But whatever.
I'm Googling.
Google. But well, anyway, again, had no idea that this was about Hustler. I had no idea who Larry Flynt was, like you said. And I'm really glad that the movie addresses Playboy, right? I mean, like, because it's like, why can you put out Playboy but not Hustler? Like, you know, why? And like this very eccentric, wild man, like, you know, this very like, I have no respect for the courts. I have no respect for the authorities. I'm going to do what I want to do because it's in the first or Second Amendment. I don't know. I don't know your fucking laws. I don't know, whatever the fuck. But like, you know, like I have a God-given right, you know, for freedom of speech. And this is something that I love in a film. There is a movie that I really love directed by Steven Spielberg called The Post. And The Post is all about, you know, the freedom of speech and the freedom of press and the freedom of like, we can publish whatever the fuck we want without government interference. Like, you know, like it gets into all of that. And yeah, like that, this totally, you know, I was just totally enamored by this movie and the story of this movie. This might be one of the best movies we've covered that you have seen, that you've picked, and I've never seen before. Like, you know, cool. Like we get into these situations all the time, like, you know, about like how you pick movies that I've never seen before, like Blow. And, you know, they mean a lot to you, and I'm coming to them for the first time. This is probably up there with one of the best for me. I was like, holy shit, dude. When this movie, like, rolled credits, I'm like, yes. And you knew I would love this because it's a courtroom, mostly a courtroom legal drama. Like, I know you picked this strategically.
Honestly, no.
But also, okay. But also, I love like Edward Norton's kind of like legal strategy is. I'm not going to say brilliant because he didn't really have much to work with because his client was just an absolute, you know, like a suicidal motherfucker. But for me, dude, the judges in this were hilarious. They are so patient. Like, man, it's
God,
just like,
yes.
I'm just like, are you serious? You're not going to charge this guy with contempt of court like immediately? Like, this is you allowed him to get to the point of throwing an orange at you. Like, you know, like, are you serious, man? But not even that. Like it's that last one that's hilarious to me. That the woman judge, because I guess she's a female, so she's gonna be shit at her job. Like, you know, like it was just like, I'm just like, man, you are so patient. Maybe it's because you know, just how kind of like high profile this guy is. Maybe that's why you're being a little bit lenient. But at the same time, if I was a judge, that would be cause for me to go even harsher. Like, you know, that would be cause for me to be like, dude, you should know your place. Like, you've been in court so many times over pretty much the same thing, right? I mean, like, pretty much like, you know, you're defaming, libel, slander, whatever. So it's clear to me that you are not learning your lesson. So, like, you know, by the time you get to that last court case and you're the judge, you'd be like, have you not learned your lesson by now? Like, you know, have you not? Yeah. So, like, you know, I don't know if that's a movie thing. I haven't, unfortunately, had the time to dig into the real life cases as much as I'd like to. But yeah, like, that was really kind of like jarring to me. I'm just like, dude, like, are you serious? Like, there is no judge in the world who would stand for this kind of like buffoonery. Like, you know, there's just no way.
No, yeah, especially once you get to the Supreme Court at the end, and it's like, nah, no fucking way. Well, he's pretty settled down by then, but yeah,
he's pretty chill. I mean, like, he's basically on a cocktail of drugs by then, right? Like, he is on another planet.
Oh yeah, like, yeah. Well, the one in the Supreme Court, I like that moment a lot because Edward Norton looks at him like, "Are you going to shut the fuck up?" And he just kind of like zips his mouth and throws away the keys. Like, I'm going to chill back here and eat an orange. It's like,
exactly.
That's a good one.
Totally, but it was a story that I had no information about. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, there's a lot of porn in this movie, and I love it.
Hell yeah,
I love it. Yeah,
I don't really know why I picked this. I just there's really not a whole lot of movies.
I mean, like, can't you see the Christmas trees in the background and shit?
Yeah, there's some point in the course of 50 years it becomes Christmas. There's not a whole lot of like biopics that are really like it, where it's, you know, it's a pornographer, and, you know, a lot of people, you know, oh, they're smut peddlers and they're bad people, and it's like, and you like this guy, like, he's very likable. And it's really strange to watch that. And watching Woody Harrelson turn from, you know, the smart talking guy to when he gets shot, having this kind of thing where he talks. Yeah. And it's like, are you Jimmy Stewart with a toothache? Like, what happened to you? So there's something really interesting about that turn. Apparently they wanted Bill Murray and he just wouldn't return phone calls. And I cannot picture Bill Murray at all in this. No fucking way. But I really love Milos Forman, who also did Man on the Moon. Really, 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 really good movie. I think he did that right after this, like 96 and 99. Really fantastic movie with Jim Carrey. That was my first exposure. Before One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. First Milos Forman thing I saw was Man on the Moon. That's probably one of the best.
That's it's the first time I'm hearing about it, and it's a biopic of Andy Kaufman. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got Jim Carrey, Courtney Love, Danny DeVito. Soundtrack's got like 3 or 4 songs by REM, one of my favorite bands. Really fantastic movie. It'll make you fall in love with Andy Kaufman. But the same way that he did this and makes you fall in love with Larry Flynt, and the fact that Larry Flynt was not really a bad guy. He doesn't do really anything bad in this movie. He doesn't abuse women. He doesn't force people to do stuff they don't want to do. He's not really, I mean, their relationship is toxic at a time, him and Althea, but they're both laying hands on each other. They're both really explosive and bombastic. It's interesting seeing Courtney Love, who's not really an actor, like, kind of be able to hold pace with Woody Harrelson. I don't think she's as good as Woody Harrelson, but that's to be expected. She's not an actor. I mean, at this point, Kurt Cobain had just died, like, 3 years ago? No, 2 years ago. She's going through a lot of crazy shit. She was they were almost like impossible to have her on the set because, I mean, but I get it though. Your husband just blew his brains out 2 years ago and he's like the godfather of grunge and shit. So it's all very interesting, like that whole 90s grunge thing and all that shit that's going on. But I think she won a Golden Globe for this too, which is kind of nuts. But there's just moments where oh, okay. There's moments where she's just brilliant, but then there's other where it just really falls flat. Everybody else rides really cool. Edward Norton is not exceptional to me in this movie. He is the straight man to Larry Flint's like explosive, bombastic guy. So there's not really anything that rocks my socks off from Edward Norton in this. But everybody else, I love Vincent Schiavelli. I love seeing the people who constantly work with Larry even through all that shit throughout the years. There's a lot of the same guys. Crispin Glover, are you fucking kidding me? And it's like Arlo, and he's like, what the fuck? I sent you
that photo, and I was just like, are you fucking serious? Like, what the fuck is happening to his eye? What's with his hair?
His sideburns, his hair. It's like, how many pictures do we have exactly? And it's like, and he's so, and I want to be like, is this what this guy was really like, or was it some dude just like the most boring guy in the world? And Crispin Glover's like, yeah, but what if we took him and gave him like acid, and like just spun him into this crazy caricature? Acid? But I love this movie. My brother Adam loves this movie. I think he might have been the first person that told me about it. I was getting one of my first or second tattoo. I got them at the same place. And as I'm getting a tattoo, I look up and there's a picture of the guy on the wall and it's signed. And I asked the guy tattooing me, I was like, who is that? He goes, do you seriously not know who that is? And I was like, no. And I was like 18. He's like, that's Larry Flynt. And he's like, he owns Hustler magazine. And I was like, oh, okay. Do you know Larry Flynt pops up in this movie?
No, actually.
We'll get to it. I won't ruin it yet. I'll let you simmer on it and see if you can poke him out.
Also,
he does have
James Carville is in this movie, which is strange. Like, isn't he that?
James Carville.
God damn, he's a politician, right? Like, he's got this. Really,
yeah. He pops up in a bunch of stuff randomly. He looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like the Vulture from the Spider-Man comics. Well, yeah, no, for sure. Like big, like bald headed. Yeah. And he's great. Yeah. He's in a lot of stuff. But I say we jump into this shit. I love this movie. Yeah. I think this is probably honestly one of my favorite movies of all time. I kind of forgot how much I love it. There's really not a lot I can pick out that's wrong with it.
I'm probably going to end up buying it, to be honest. I love.
Yeah. Anybody, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I haven't watched this in a long time. As of right now, it's on Amazon Prime in the US at least. So check it out if you want to check it out there. But I've got it on, I think, DVD, and it's on Amazon Prime right now. But I'm ready to jump into this shit. What do you say? You got anything else you want to say before we jump into this?
Let's get into this bitch.
Hell yeah. We open in Kentucky. We see Larry and Jimmy Flynt, moonshine peddlers' children. I don't know where he is in Kentucky, but I can drive for 15 minutes and be in Kentucky from where I live. I'm closer actually I'm actually closer to the Kentucky-Tennessee border than I am to Nashville. So very northern Tennessee. And it's what? God damn it, dude! I just started talking. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm putting my hand up. Yeah, the listeners are like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" He just like stopped mid sentence. I put my hand up because we're on video, and I'm just like, "Dude, shut the fuck!" Like that's my signal to shut the fuck up and let me talk now. No, actually, my question was: Is moonshining still a thing? Like, is that still a thing in the South? Because I mean, like. First time I discovered moonshine, it was in the Dukes of Hazzard movie, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
I don't know, because this is not prohibition, at that point. This is like the late 40s, early 50s, I guess. So I don't know if it's just a thing of like, it's cheaper to do that. But I know that in the South, like, yeah, that was a big thing. Like people had moonshine distilleries and people would break them down so they look like other parts of other machines. So like one would go on a tractor, this one would go on your car, this one would go on a well, and you would take them off and put them together and have a distillery. So I mean, not as much anymore. But I mean, you can definitely go to like Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, and they have huge moonshine stores where it's like peach apple cinnamon, and it's delicious, by the way. Some real old smoky moonshine. It comes in a mason jar. It's really sweet and it's really good. It gets you fucking hammered, dude. I always thought it was like
jet fuel, right? Like, I mean, like
yes,
the strongest thing I've ever had is like
yes.
absinthe or like Bacardi. What is it? 365 or some shit. I don't know. It's like this really strong Bacardi. Or like, I have Croatian friends and they drink this thing called rakia, and it's basically jet fuel, dude. It's like, I don't even know the percentage of alcohol it is, but it's like, it's wild. But yeah, that's what I always imagined moonshine was.
I think the strongest thing I ever drank was called Fighting Cock Whiskey, bottom shelf, 105 proof whiskey.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, bottom shelf, get like a handle of it for like $5.99. Oh, it's so good. But no, yeah, I think
sorry. It's Bacardi 151. That's the Bacardi 150. Really strong. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. I think I used to drink that in middle school, bitch. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I like this. You see Larry immediately. Him and Jimmy have a good rapport. They're obviously dirt poor. It's a little. I'm just trying to make an honest buck, and I'm like, okay, I think you tried to save an honest buck, and you got some shitty kid actors. I think that's what happened. But just the imagery of like, look at how dull and gray and dreary, and like their boots are covered in mud, and this old man holding up the dollar and just like, let me make sure. And it's like, this is how fucking poor these people are. And there really are people like that still to this day. And they're called Trump support. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking kidding. I mean, in Kentucky now, that's not.
They're called Republicans.
Yeah, no. But I mean, especially back then, this was not uncommon, especially in the South, for families to be this poor. Like my dad growing up was like, I remember eating ketchup sandwiches, and he was like, because we were like a single mom of 4 kids, so it's
high in fiber,
Yeah, right. Exactly. But it's believable. It's very believable. But I love him smashing his dad in the fucking head with that jug. Yeah. I was like, God damn, kid. But it does show you kind of like Larry does have a temper, But what did you think kind of about this opening versus where we morph into the strip club?
Yeah, this was, I mean, look, I was kind of expecting it, like in terms of like, if you're doing a biopic, you need to start off by showing them, as kids, as children. It was a bit of a stark difference though. Like I was just like, man, like I didn't think that they were this poor, and like, I didn't know that this was a rags to riches story. I guess like your classic like Scarface, if you want to go down that route. But yeah, I had no idea that Larry Flynt was this poor starting out. It's crazy.
No, yeah, and I love the transition to the strip club, and it's obviously kind of a shithole, and him being like, oh, we got, June and Katie from Paris and London, Kentucky. Yeah. And he says it real low. But there's shit like that out there where it's like there is a Paris, Tennessee, there is a London, Kentucky. And it's very, very strange to like hear that said. But it gives you this like real sleazeball kind of, it gives you this real sleazeball kind of, sorry, Lindsay just brought me a bottle of Bailey's. I'm going to put in my coffee. And we started talking about moonshine, and I was like, bring me alcohol. Feed me, Seymour.
It's Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. We made hot cocoa and put Bailey's in it. It was delicious. Oh, wait, here we go. Oh, yeah. There we are. But the thing I love is seeing, Larry, he's got the bad suit on, the curly hair. He kind of looks like a used car salesman. His brother looks like an out of work
really
porn star.
Wants to be famous. Like, he looks like he's really, he reminds me of Jordan Belfort, right? Like, I'm going to really sit down and try my best to appear like a businessman, like a proper businessman who has money and comes from money, but his brother looks like the prelude to Johnny Sins for sure.
Right. But it's interesting seeing the wheels getting turned where he's like, oh, man, if we can only convince guys how good of a lady these girls are, that's what kind of gets but it's something where regardless of what Larry's profession is, he is kind of ingenuitive. He sees an opportunity and like, how can we take this thing? We have something that people want. How can we get that into people's hands? And it's like, that's commerce. That's a capitalist mind. Like that's a smart motherfucker, and that's somebody who sees an opportunity. And like, I don't care if I have to break a moral law. Like, I'm not hurting anybody,
But it's not even that. You're doing what you did with the moonshine as well. You're taking what people love, alcohol and porn, and distilling it, right? I mean, like, you're not giving them what Playboy does with, the extra, whatever, the columns and the article and the editorials. You're taking all of that away, and you're just giving the people what they want, why they're coming to Playboy, and why they're not buying fucking newspapers instead. Like, you're taking the simplest element and making that you're putting that on Front Street. Right.
Well, and I think there's something interesting between Hustler and Playboy, where Playboy tries to act like we're gentlemen and we wear robes and we smoke cigarettes. Right. And it's like Hustler's like, you want me to cram it in your ass? Like,
exactly.
Hustler has that dirty, like, kind of feel to it where, Hugh Hefner's on the record a lot. There was some rapper who was like, man, how'd you get so many bitches, Hugh? And he was like, well, if you stop treating them like bitches, you might actually have more. And I was like, damn, like, he really outclassed this kid. I wish I should have dug up a little bit more research on what they kind of thought of each other, Hugh Hefner and Larry Flynt. I mean, surely they know each other, but I wonder exactly what their relationship was as competitors, But Larry Flynt, I mean, dude, he's worth $500 million. Like, he made a lot of money in his lifetime. I'm sure Hugh Hefner probably made a little bit more, just his personality. But would you dig up something?
Yeah, I found this article from the Hollywood Reporter back in 2015. So the headline is Playboy chief Hugh Hefner has, quote, lost his mind, says Larry Flynt. So speaking on CNN, Flynt was asked if Playboy's move to become more like Maxim, GQ, and Esquire was a smart decision, to which he replied, Hugh Hefner is 90 now. I know he's getting old, but I didn't know he'd lost his mind.
God damn.
Asked to clarify his point, Flynt answered rhetorically, how can you take the most important feature of your magazine and drop it? What it became notorious for. Damn, that's interesting.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, like, and that really ties into this scene. Well, I mean, like, this moment in the movie, right? Like, where he gets this idea to literally just give the people what they want, and that is porn.
Right. Well, and it's also interesting too, where it's like, moral reasons, is that what Playboy it's Playboy trying to get away from a more exploitative kind of, because you can argue that Larry Flynt is exploiting people. You can kind of argue that. It's an interesting point. I don't know if I agree with it. There's a demand, there is a supply, people are being paid, consenting adults. Like, I get it, but it is interesting to kind of see this high road that Playboy's trying to take, where Hustler's like, hey kid, you want some porn?
It was interesting to me watching this movie in 2020 when, you can throw a rock at any Instagram account and find an OnlyFans link, like, kind of like watching it through that lens. Like, girls these days are really open and putting themselves out there and not really, like, because porn is still looked down upon. Like, we can get into this whole conversation about, like, porn being, I guess, taboo and whatever. In my relationship, my girlfriend and I are pretty open about the porn that we watch. Like, we talk about it. Like, it's just like, whatever. It is what it is. Everyone fucking does it. It's just you hide it, right? Like, because you're supposed to, because it's
everybody
not,
knows
proper.
What that black leather couch is, and don't act like you don't. Don't act like you don't.
Exactly. If I showed you a photo of Johnny Sins, you would know him as the plumber,
right,
or the firefighter. Like,
right. It's fucking bullshit how they do treat people in porn, people who are sex workers, and it's like, no, that's bullshit, man. And I kind of love OnlyFans for that, where it's like, you cut out the middleman. I'm sure there's something you have to pay to OnlyFans, and also, if anybody's interested, read about Bella Thorne and totally fucking up OnlyFans. And I was like, what an asshat. But
she got so much shit for that, dude. Like,
dude,
so
good. Fuck you, you Disney bitch. Like, fucking shit up for. I'm sorry, man. You in the middle of a pandemic, you ruined something that it's somebody's putting food on the table with that, and you ruined it. It's like, that's crazy. But the interesting thing about how sex workers and prostitutes and anything of that nature is kind of looked down upon is bullshit. And I was like, that's not, remove the morality aside. These people are here because there is a demand. And it's like, it's not like prostitutes have to ask people to have sex with them. And it's like, no, that's they're here because people are asking. It doesn't make any fucking sense. But there is an interesting kind of like taboo around it. And, you kind of get that Bible Belt where Larry Flynt is. We haven't talked about this. It's also very important. He's in Ohio. In Kentucky. And that is, you're starting to get, kind of towards the South where this is really looked down upon, where people are really judgy, where Jerry Falwell does have a very strong, right, exactly. So I think that's one thing. And where he finally, it's just like, there's got to be a place for perverts, and he finally goes out to California. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that's an interesting conversation I feel like we could go on and on and on about that.
Whole episode. Yeah.
Yes. I think that would be great though. That would be a cool conversation.
It did occur to me, definitely, like watching this movie in 2020 and, seeing how open girls are now about their sexuality and totally right to do so. Right. I mean,
right.
It's your body. You do whatever the fuck you want. If people are buying, you can sell it, go for gold. I don't give a shit because it doesn't impact me personally. So like, it was interesting watching, people versus Larry Flynt under that whole kind of like lens, like, this is again freedom of speech, right? This is again, OnlyFans is a platform where people can put themselves out there because they want to. They're not being forced to, like, because they want to.
Right. Whatever happens between two consenting adults is none of my goddamn business, and that's
as long as they're consenting and as long as they're adults. Like that is literally the only two qualifiers. That's it.
Right. Exactly. Like, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm like, church nor state nor individual should have any business in that.
See, Midnight Double Feature is against sexual assault.
Yeah, right. Midnight Double Feature is against, speaking of sexual assault, the Catholic Church. No, I'm just kidding. Any chance I get, I will just Loki going for Thanos' jugular with the blade. I will fucking any chance I get. But I mean, we can kind of skip ahead a little bit. He's trying to get the magazine made. You got to have some kind of content. Like Playboy does. I love this guy is such a pit part. And he's like, why? He's like, because there are laws. He's like, you fucking idiot. Like, you can't just come up here and do this.
That's so interesting to me, though. Like just, and these are very like unqualified thoughts. Like, because I did only just watch this once. But like the idea of like putting Playboy out and, everyone buys it for porn. Hugh Hefner knows this. Everyone knows this. Like, this is right. This is 100% true. But like just putting a couple of like columns or like think pieces or editorials around it, makes it somewhat legal. Like it's that whole kind of like interpretation of the law or like, like where is the line kind of thing. That really, really fascinated me in this movie, dude. I was like, are you serious? Like, like you can put out Hustler, which, has like just spread eagle, like pages of women, but that's illegal. But Playboy can do it as long as there's just like an editorial about, the dangers of horse racing or some shit.
Right.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right. Well, and also how you depict the body, you can't just have this like kind of blunt graphic, just leg spread. You have to do it in like a fancy way. And then it's acceptable. Yeah. It's more palatable. And now it's just so ironic to watch this and be like, nobody thought that, there would be ad-free pornography, 20 years down the road. It's so fucking funny to watch. Like, if somebody was like, if I watched a movie in 2020 and somebody brought out a magazine or even a DVD and just heard, I'm like, I'm sorry, is this like your emergency porn? Like,
oh my God, man. I keep coming back to that moment in Family Guy when Quagmire discovers internet porn.
Yes.
He's got the giant veiny arm. I know we brought it up on the podcast. I know we brought it up on the podcast before, but that is one of my favorite skits from Family Guy, dude.
I'm good.
Yeah, he's just out of breath. He's got a 5 o'clock like shadow.
Yes,
he's just like, I've just been checking out some of that internet porn. I'm gonna go check out my mail over there.
Right.
Like, he's just totally out of breath.
It's just so, it's so funny to see like how far it's come. But really what's crazy too is we move at a clip where in the first 10 minutes, we see what Larry Flynt does. We see what his home life is. We meet his brother. And then, as he gets back to, basically being shut down about the magazines, this is where he makes the Hustler newsletter. And we really, there's moments that are really great from Woody Harrelson that show Larry Flynt does have a dark side where he's like, what the hell are you going to do with all this? And he's like, don't ever interrupt me while I'm talking. And it's like, that's fucking scary. Like, that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, damn, dude. But with this, we're also introduced to Althea Flynt. We see her dance. Her dancing is so awkward and so strange to watch. Courtney Love, who's supposed to be 18.
17.
Yeah, 17. Yeah, thank you. Supposed to be 17. And her, like, when she goes to flip her top up and she falls on the ground, I was like, this is strange. I was like, this is very, very weird. And not to say that I don't think that Courtney Love is an unattractive woman. I also don't think she's an attractive woman. There's not really anything in that. Like, she has gorgeous eyes. Don't get me wrong. Like, I can see why all day long. I get it. Just not my cup of tea. You know, I would. Probably the secretary that's like, the pervert is back. The pervert is back. I'm like, you're fucking cute. But other than that, yeah, I just don't see the appeal for me. You know, this is not my cup of tea. But this whole thing about her being, you know, underage, she's drinking the moonshine. It's so funny. It's a meet cute set in a porno.
Right.
It's interesting. It's original. I really dug that. And this is one of her moments of brilliance where she's like, you see that's how close I am to being 18. It's like, that's great. She does such a good job here. But then there's moments later on, you know, she bats her, she like blinks a lot and kind of bats her eyes and does this weird thing. And I'm like, it's just not my cup of tea. Like, for someone who is a musician who is not really, that acting is not your first thing, it's cool. I can dig it. I can look past that because I'm grading it on a curve. You know, if Woody Harrelson put out an album and it wasn't great, I probably would be a little bit more lenient. You know what I mean?
No, I 100% agree. Dude, like, there is, and this is kind of like, you know, we're peeking behind the curtain here, but we are going to record one of our Breaking Bad episodes just after this episode. And, you know, the particular episode we're talking about, Peekaboo, there is a woman in that who plays out junkie really, really incredibly well. And, you know, like, you can kind of see, if you watch these movies back to back, right? If you watch Courtney Love's kind of like performance as a junkie, it's good. It's surface level. It's a little shallow. Like, you know, it's a little like, this is what I'd imagine a junkie to act like. Whereas the performance in Breaking Bad with that woman, that gives me nightmares. Like, you know, like that, there is something about that particular performance, the crazy look in her eyes. There's something about that is not present in Courtney Love's kind of like performance that just makes it all the more real, you know?
Right, yeah, that woman from Breaking Bad is like Bathsheba from the Conjuring movies. On top of that wardrobe,
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah,
fucking terrifying, man.
Yeah.
But you know, this, you know, like I said, this is their meet cute. You know, she says, I heard you bang everybody in all of your clubs. You know, is that a prerequisite? I just wonder why you haven't made it pass. You know, blah blah. It's cute. You know, we basically see they start banging. I like that Jimmy kind of walks in on him. And we see that this is what's mind blowing too, where he's like, why don't you go fuck a woman? I do fuck women. And he's like, excuse me? And that must be so, like, I feel like he must have hit like a gold mine where he's like, oh, I'm marrying this woman. You know, it's like, you can see the clockwork in his head. And we see little things too. You know, she's moving in with you. He's like, oh, you know, this girl, she's adopted. Now, Althea Flynt was adopted. Her dad did murder basically her whole family. And she and like her grandmother survived. It wasn't like her entire family. She had some siblings that survived, but yeah, her dad murdered a lot of people in her family, and she survived in a right.
I looked up a photo of her. She was a beautiful woman. Like, she was like naturally beautiful, man. Like, it's honestly a real tragedy what happened to her.
Right. Yeah, it is really sad. And so that moment where she's like, you know, and they shoved my face and their pussies for a goddamn, like, that's all very true. That's not made up for the movie. I mean, obviously that'd be kind of fucked up if they did like throw a weird line in there that's not true. But you know, we see that the Hustler newsletter is gaining traction. I love that truck driver who's like, yeah, it came in kind of handy, you know, and they kind of laugh about it.
Just rubbed one out in the fucking bathroom.
Right, dude. Those truck drivers, man, like they'll piss in jugs while they're driving down the road so they don't have to stop, and then they'll throw it out on the road and you know, I guess for lack of a better term, crackheads, meth heads will drink the piss because they're taking methamphetamine, and it transfers through the piss, and it's like, oh my god, that's crazy. The worst part is trying to get the taste out of your mouth. God damn it! I'm just kidding.
You gotta brush your teeth like 3 times,
right? Yeah. Gentleman Playboy is laughing at you. We're seeing the groundings here. Him trying to get the photo. This is what's funny. The girl that they're photographing. He's like, no, your other left hand. She's absolutely knockout gorgeous. What's funny is she's not just a model. When Jimmy Carter's sister calls, she is the secretary. That's like Larry.
Nice.
Ruth Carter Stapleton's on the phone.
Yeah, nice.
So it is kind of cool that it's not just like, all right, you're a model, get the fuck out. Like, no, if you're cool, we'll hire you. We'll put you in for a job. And she's absolutely goddamn gorgeous too.
This photographer is hilarious, dude. Like she, dude. Flynt just goes up and just like, boom, here's the legs, here's the fucking wide open. And then he's just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you? I loved it. Right. It's so good.
It's very like abrupt, and it makes you kind of like, oh, like when just seeing any woman have her legs just pulled open is kind of like, open. Oh, like, yeah, it definitely kind of makes you jump a little bit. We're seeing backlash from Hustler. They're saying they're only having a 25% follow through. The people aren't really buying. The magazines. It's Althea's birthday. A lot of stuff going on, man. In the first 20 minutes of this movie, Crispin Glover's being fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the whole thing, the way he smokes cigarettes, where he puts the cigarette in between his ring and middle finger and smokes like that. It's very, very strange.
Off-putting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're sending back 150,000 copies. This is great. We kind of see them start to fight, and this guy calls in. And he's like, I've got naked pictures of Jackie O. I waited for 4 months. One day the cabana door opens up and she comes walking out. He's like, you're sure it's Jackie O? He goes, yeah, sure. He's like, and what do you see? You see absolutely everything. Trust me. She's a good one. This ain't no Mamie Eisenhower or Lady Bird. That's
I love
Lady Bird.
I love it.
In case you're not familiar, Lady Bird Johnson, oh my God.
Lyndon, LBJ.
LBJ. Thank you. We're seeing also the effect. I love the congressman who buys the copy of it, and they're like, oh, so you would have gotten pornographic images of Martha Washington. He's like, oh, I'm a buff about the first lady. He's like, yeah, dude. Like, of course,
exactly.
Of course,
and
you
that's
would.
The double standard, right? Like, that's the you're a congressman. Like, where is your line? You will not. Like, you will draw a line at someone who is not famous and actively trying to scramble and scrounge and do pornography shoots to put food on the table. But you'll be fine with Jackie O. It's just like, come on, dude. Like, what the fuck?
And I need to correct myself. He's actually the governor of the state is buying a copy of this.
Holy shit.
Governor
of the state.
Jesus.
Christ.
We're introduced to James Cromwell. I love James Cromwell. He is in so much interesting stuff, man.
The first thing I saw him in was The Longest Yard, the remake with Adam Sandler. He's the warden. But come on, dude. Like LA Confidential, Green Mile. Like he's
iRobot.
Awesome, I love him. iRobot. Yeah, dude. He is a tall man.
Yes.
Do you know how tall he is? He is huge.
What is he, like 6'6"? I'd guess.
I'm going to look it up.
Look it up. Yeah, he should be Slender Man. That would be fantastic.
6'8".
6'8".
Oh,
God
6'7".
damn.
Sorry, 6'7".
No, but still.
His son John is even taller, standing 6'8". Jesus Christ.
That's 6'7" though.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's huge.
He's 80 years old. God damn it.
Honestly, I thought he had died. I think that's awesome. I really thought. I was afraid he had passed away.
Piece of shit. No, he was just in the recent Jurassic Park a couple years ago. The Jurassic Park
okay.
sequel. Yeah.
He does look a shit ton like Charles Keating, by the way. If you Google him, very really? Not a whole lot, but a pretty good actor to portray him. But he's, lamenting the downfall of the American society. We are the citizens for decent literature. We cannot relent. We must prevent the destruction of the soul of America. This is Charles Keating, who famously was wrapped up in the savings and loan scandal where he cost people millions. It's just so funny to see these guys who are, we must watch out for pornography. And it's like, this guy gave people jobs. This guy built industry.
Yeah.
You did nothing but take away from people, and he served almost no jail time basically for it.
And that's the, like it's funny because it's such a, like, the difference between a blue collar crime and a white collar crime, right? Like, this is, you have perpetrated people's finances, like, you are taking away what they've absolutely worked hard for. You're like, you are the scum of the earth, sir. And you're pushing forward this narrative that, that Larry Flynt is, the devil, basically. And it's just like, dude, that's so not true. Dude, one of the things I love about this scene is, it's low-hanging fruit, but it fucking gets me all the time, is these guys, like, so Carville's character is passing, like, out these magazines, and all the guys, like, are really trying to, like, hard, like, really want to have a look at them, and their wives are just like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?
Everybody's fighting over him and shit.
Oh my God.
He served 4.5 years in prison before those convictions were overturned in 1996, the year this movie came out.
Oh shit!
In '99, he pleaded guilty to more limited set of wire fraud and bankruptcy fraud counts, and was sentenced to the time he had already served. He spent his final years on a low-profile real estate activities until he died in 2014. He was 90. So shit, like he lived for a long time.
Life. Yeah,
it cost the U.S. government $3 billion when his bonds failed. And it's Jesus like, that's Christ, absolutely insane. Larry, take your pants off. Why? I've never fucked a millionaire before. Great line. Can't beat it, dude. That might be my favorite line of the movie. It's really good. We see Larry's lifestyle. He's got this party. His parents are brought up. He and Althea talked about getting married. I'm just kind of summarizing this right here. It's a great scene. I love that. Where he's like, she's like fucking. She's like nose deep in a fucking puss, and she's like, "Your parents are here."
She is tearing up some carpet, like she is just like absolutely ripping up the carpet, and he just pokes his head in. He's like, "Oh, it's
he
the
bites
maid.
the wall.
It's the maid."
Like, oh God.
I mean, like, there's some great like physical comedy here, right? I mean, like, he's basically going out to this pool and fucking these girls, and the parents are just settling into their bed. It's good stuff.
I love that. He's like, we've got this girl in here and she's frigid. They're all hanging out in the hot tub. Cool conversation between them, where she's like, you want to get married? They start, you're confusing monogamy for marriage and stuff. That's such a mature and awesome way to look at this, where it's like, I don't want to stop what we're doing. I love the way we live. Which is interesting too, because she ultimately does contract AIDS. Althea Flynt, she contracted AIDS. She drowned in a bathtub. Larry Flynt's like, listen, she would have died within a year anyways, and it sucks. But honestly, between just withering away of AIDS versus drowning to death, he's like, I think I would prefer her just drowning.
She took that old easy Freddie Mercury exit.
Yeah, right. Basically. But I think what he said was he says that she got AIDS from a bad blood transfusion. And I'm like, listen, I'm not, come on. I have no evidence to counter that. I really don't.
You don't need to be a goddamn, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out that
might not be up to code. Right.
Exactly.
Right. I don't have any evidence to refute that. I have to kind of take him at his word. But look,
it is
kind of
suspicious. It is the 80s. Yeah, it's the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, this is back when people could fuck with multiple partners at the same time and not worry about it, right? I mean, like, it's just the way it was. I mean, like, you did not get it from a blood transfusion. I am sorry. I again have not looked into the history of this, have not looked into the evidence of this, but I can tell you with pretty much like 95% certainty, like, you did not get it from the blood transfusion.
Well, and don't get me wrong, there are absolutely people who get bad blood transfusions. There's a historic case of a kid who got a bad blood transfusion, and he kind of broke down barriers that it's not just people who are drug addicts and homosexuals, that it's not just people who are swingers and stuff.
Like, he kind of stereotypes. Yeah.
Right, he broke that stigma of an AIDS patient. But yeah, I have a hard time buying that she was on drugs. She was also having sex with multiple people. Right. I'm not saying that what happened was deserved. I'm just saying that I don't know. I question that is all I'm going to leave it at. but of course they get married. I love where he's like, will you marry me? And she's like, are you fucking with me? He's like, yeah. I laughed my ass off at that part, man. But we see, and Larry gets arrested. That's the first kind of sign of trouble. Here we are, half an hour in. We're so successful. We've got naked pictures of Jackie O. We're doing all this crazy shit, and now pride cometh before the fall. So it's like now we've gone up, we've got to go down. We're introduced to Edward Norton as his lawyer. He's like, "Are you doing her? Are you doing my wife?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "I love." He's like, "You specialize in porn?" He's like, "No, God, no."
Yeah. He's just, dude, but I love that he's like, it'd be like, it'll be okay if you're doing it. Like, it's just like, don't worry about it. It's fine. I just needed to ask you. Like, yeah, I love it. And I love the whole, because we need we need Edward Norton's character in here, because it's just like, yeah, he is the straight man to the wildcat, right? It's just like, we need the voice of reason here. Like,
Right. And you need somebody to straighten Larry out. Like, there is definitely a respect that Larry has for Alan. When this is the guy who's always bailing your ass out, Larry doesn't listen to anybody in this movie but Alan. Like that's the interesting thing. Nobody can rein this guy in except for, Althea a little bit. He never listens to Jimmy. He never listens to Arlo. It's very, very interesting to watch their dynamic. And I think they do a great job of,
I feel very sorry for Alan, man. Like what a crappy situation to be. Because he looks like a junior, like not a junior, like maybe a couple of years into his kind of like law career. Because we get that time jump later. He's sitting in a high rise, whatever. But here, especially taking on this client and someone who is so eccentric and unpredictable as Larry Flynt is here, I feel so sorry for you, dude. As a defense lawyer, like dude. You have your work cut out for you, sir.
And the real Alan Isaac was not shot. That actually happened to like Gary something Jr. was a different
Gary
lawyer,
Sinise.
and they kind of
right.
Yeah, there you go. They actually kind of combined his moment with that. I get it for storytelling purposes, but I just wanted to point that out. I love, they slap him with like organized crime charges. Like they're obviously just trying to cook up whatever. Right. I just got to ask you one time, do you have any connections in any way to organized crime? And that's what's funny is like, I talk to people all day at work about, I'm a debt collector, and I'll ask people, hey, your balance is $9,000. Is there any way that you can pay their balance off in full? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, just got to ask. And now we can move on to the fun stuff. But I have to ask you that. Like, I love that. There, how many court cases where the guy was like, well, my lawyer never asked me if I did it. Right. that like set the precedent of it.
And to be honest, like they teach you in law school that, it doesn't matter whether your client did it or not. Like, you just need to serve their best interests. Like, right. As long as if they confess to you something that gets in the way of serving justice, like, like let's say I hid this piece of evidence here, you need to tell the police. Like there are duties that, you are bound to because you are technically a servant of the court and technically a servant of justice. But also, you also need to serve in your best interests of the client. So, yeah, it is interesting to me, like, that there are, that he did, he asked Larry Flynt that. But, like, also, he's not really breaking any fucking huge laws. This is just the government getting all uppity about, like, we are Catholics, like, we are, like, religious, this is wrong. Ugh.
Right. Well, yeah. And it's also, Larry Flynt paved the way for a lot of, for not only a lot of freedom of speech, but at the same time, what is socially acceptable, and no, I don't agree that, coming up, he's like, you can buy a Hustler right there in the grocery store. And it's like, not where I'm from. Like those were things that were behind the counter. They had a plastic divider up over it.
They had like it was not little foil over the cover.
Yeah. It was like a shield.
You don't think I'd try to buy that shit as a kid? Come on.
Right. Dude, I would see it where it would be like a cover of like a Cosmopolitan, and it would be like, Pink, like the artist, Pink.
Oh, yeah.
And she would have like a low cut shirt on and be showing tattoos, and she's fucking hot with that short hair. And they would put a cover up on it. And I'm like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah, I was that's intense. They used to have this magazine chain here called Zoo Magazine, and Zoo Magazine, it's kind of like it's not smart. It's kind of like PG-13 porn, like they're wearing bikinis and whatever.
Mhm.
But like those would be like in full view because like those weren't super sexually explicit, and you could buy those. We actually did buy them. Like I kept them in secret in my school bag. Like they were like fucking
Yeah.
200. But then
Right.
like I remember getting some older friends to buy me some actual like really hard stuff, and I'm just like fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Like you get your buddy to buy you a copy of Wild Things with like Nev
Yeah.
Campbell and Denise Richards, and you're like, hell yeah.
And you wear out that VHS. Yeah, dude, I've been there. Come on.
Right. Yeah, we see I love this. There right away we see Althea, Alan, and Larry have this great rapport where she's like, my cousin shot a preacher in the back. He's like, you're what denomination? Like, that's so good. He's like, can we talk about the fate of cousin Larry later or cousin Bobby later? It's very interesting stuff. We see him finally get to court. I'm drawing a blank on this guy's name again. James Carville. I must apologize for the unpleasantness of this task. He's like, Hustler magazine depicts men and women in a lewd and, whatever behavior. He's like, Hustler magazine shows Santa Claus in a lewd and shameful behavior. Right. And you see him have to lean over to Edward Norton and explain, and he's like, Jesus Christ.
It's so good. Yeah, I love it. Okay, but I love it's weird to me. It's weird to me that Edward Norton is learning about this now. Like, it's just
right.
like one of the things and look, I hate to be so boring about this because it is hilarious in the movie when when he explains it to him and like just Edward Norton's like reaction to it is just like, God damn it. Like,
he's very naive.
Right. And one of the things in law is, the other side cannot be surprised by your evidence. That's just not a thing. You can't.
Right.
You can't, like that happens in movies all the time. Like, that someone gets up and makes this huge kind of like revelation of evidence or something like that. But there's a thing called voir dire, which is like the admission of evidence, right? Like, and I actually think that might be, I can't remember if it was in this movie, it might have been in another movie, but like voir dire is like when you're presenting all of your evidence and the judge is like, yep, you can admit that to evidence. Nope, you can't admit that to evidence. Like, like it's just like,
right.
Sure.
Okay. Well, because you see in a lot of like Law and Order where they're like, the defense did not know about this piece of evidence and like, oh, it's too late to submit new evidence,
Yeah. So you can't rely on that piece of evidence if it's being excluded or if it's like a surprise thing. You just can't, like, because it's not fair, to be honest. Like, it's not fair to the defense. So, yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, you give them no time to basically prep for it. You can't just drop a bombshell on people. And I love Alan Isaac's defensive. He's like, hey, these are the same magazines as Hustler. And immediately they will, the judge throws him out. This is Larry Flynt.
Yeah.
That judge is Larry Flynt.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I thought so. I was like, why does he look so familiar? Why does he look so familiar?
He can't act worth a shit, and he's paralyzed. He can't,
Yeah.
What's he gonna do?
I was like, okay, because this moment really stuck out to me because the prosecution gets up and says objection, and he says sustained, and Edward Norton's like really like, what the fuck? Why is that sustained?
Right.
Because it's completely irrelevant, right? I mean, like you get up and you object to things that are irrelevant to the case, or whatever point you're making is not relevant to anything at all. You're just wasting time. But here he says objection. And the judge says sustained. It's quite clear that the judge he's already kind of made up his mind, right? Like he's already decided. But like, yeah, it's really interesting to me that that's Larry Flynt because I was like, I looked up photos of Larry Flynt after the movie, and I was like, I've seen him somewhere. Where have I seen it? It turns out an hour and a half before. But yeah, I
think it'd be so interesting if one of us was the plaintiff and the defendant in a case, and we argued shit. That would be such an interesting thing because like. I know knowledge-wise you would kick my ass, but I own you in charisma. No, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding. I'll tell you what. And like this is, something we can talk about 208 episodes in. One of the reasons I agreed on starting the podcast is because I'm not great at advocacy. And like, advocacy is obviously like the whole art of like getting up and standing up in court and being able to articulate your ideas and articulate your arguments. I'm not great at advocacy, and the podcast has mostly helped with like, with all of that stuff. I'm still obviously trying to get better at it. You are great at advocacy. So I think you'd kick my ass in advocacy. I like preparing things on paper and in writing. And, like I'm really good at like at putting together an argument on paper. But yeah, like, and that works in Australia, because in Australia, solicitors put together arguments on paper and, like, actually on paper, and you can hire a barrister to articulate that idea for you.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
that is
See, I
that is
couldn't.
the way it works.
I'm bad at writing stuff because I feel like it boxes me in. Like, if I can talk, like, I can have a shitty argument, but say it well, and that might persuade somebody a little bit better, versus like, I went to school for this guy, it's not even from our country, and he's winning you over. What the fuck? But no, and I love Edward Norton in this, because he is very passionate about that. He is very like, whoa, hang on. And he, it's crazy to watch a lawyer question the judge and be like, no, that's bullshit, and it's interesting to see Isaacsman's respect for the court and its process, but then to call bullshit when bullshit is dealt. You know what I mean?
No, I do know what you mean. And you know what? That happens a lot more often in real life than you would expect. Like, okay. There is a lot of, it happens all the time in movies, and it really kind of like annoys me, because lawyers and judges, especially in a courtroom setting, really do talk pretty casually. Like, I've seen a lot of like lawyers in front of their clients in a courtroom setting talk very casually to the judge. The judge can make jokes. The lawyer will respond back in a joking manner. And I'm not saying that it's informal. It absolutely is formal. It's the most formal kind of like situation that you can possibly have. But there is I've seen, especially lawyers who present themselves in front of judges on a daily basis, you can tell that these guys have communicated often.
They walk in and give finger guns to each other.
Yeah, right, exactly. No, but especially criminal lawyers, right? Like, who often work the same courtrooms every day on a daily basis. Like, these like, the judges are inherently familiar with the lawyers that are in their court, so they kind of like build up this rapport. And yeah, it always like interests me, like, whenever like a lawyer in a movie speaks very casually to a judge, and because it's true, it's real, it's an actual thing, it happens.
That is really interesting, because you think of lawyers as just these, I'm a robot and I argue my case, but that, like, I love watching Law and Order. There's some great episodes where their DA will actually go and like have a drink with the prosecute, with the defense.
Yeah, exactly. And that happens, because it's not supposed to be as adversarial as you would expect. It's still supposed to be, because you're colleagues, right? You're both lawyers, you both work in the same industry. Just because, you're like, one is trying to put away your client, doesn't mean that you are supposed to be adversaries,
Right. No, 100%. This whole scene can be summarized in, they kind of argue their points back and forth. This is where, he won't admit them. They kind of convince, they're like, Larry, what's in this? He goes, this is what I've got to ho about. But he makes a great point. He's like, there's these other magazines and people. I saw a 4-letter word. If you don't like Hustler magazine, don't read it, but Norton's argument is so much better, where he's like, I'm not expecting you to like what Larry Flynt does. I don't like what Larry Flynt does. And you can see Larry like, God damn it, like kind of like sighing. He's like, but I love that we live in a world where I can pick up a Hustler magazine and read it if I want to, or if I think it's in the trash, I can pick it up and throw it in the trash. And it's like, yes.
The free will to make that decision for myself. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the entire kind of crux of the point here. For sure.
And Larry's argument of, if a kid gets caught drinking beer in a tavern, you don't ban Budweiser across the nation. And it's like, that's a great point. Your Honor, you haven't made one intelligent decision this whole time. I don't expect one now. Knock yourself out. Holy fuck, the balls. They brought his balls in a wheelbarrow. God damn it. But they sentenced him to 25 years in a federal penitentiary, which is great. But
I have problems with that. I have problems.
Of course, it's ridiculous. That's why it got thrown out after like 2 months, and he was back on the street.
It's never gonna hold up. Sentencing. Look, a lot goes into sentencing, right? A lot of considerations go into sentencing, including like whether this guy, like the chances of him being rehabilitated are, like the seriousness of the crime, any like mitigating factors. So like him just being like, yep, 25 years. no. Like, you will. There is no fucking way. Like, that is like judicially like incorrect. Like, there's just no fucking way.
Denying him bail immediately, it's like, dude, you obviously have a personal problem here.
Yeah,
this is absolutely ridiculous.
It's not impartial. Yeah, totally.
Right. It's not really until they get out of Ohio and Georgia and kind of get to the Supreme Court that shit even remotely starts to make sense. And it's like, okay, dude, okay.
But think about how many like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars was spent to get to that point,
Right. No, 100%. All the time and energy wasted. Like, geez, had he not had, it's very interesting to think if Larry Flynt had not had to go to court, he might not have ever been shot. That's fucking crazy to think about. Yeah. Like, he was coming out of a courthouse and was paralyzed. That's fucked up to think about. But we got some teams coming up of him in the prison. I need some more coffee for my Baileys. I'm starting to run a little low. Guys, we will be right back with the second half of our coverage of The People versus Larry Flynt. Don't go anywhere. Hey guys, what's going on? Colin jumping in here in the middle. Just kind of let you know some stuff that's going on at Midnight Double Feature. First off, please stop by and rate and review us on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. It helps out so much. It takes 5 seconds and it's free. So there you go. We would really appreciate it. Also, you can find us on our socials. We're on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Instagram at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Twitter at MDF Pod. Please also join the group that we have attached to our Facebook page. It's called the After Party. Everybody's invited. That group has been really expanding and we're really excited to see where it's going. We can also find our website, midnightdoublefeature.com. We got our merch there. If you want to know something, you want to find us on our socials, you want to see what all's going on, that's kind of like our main hub. That's really where to find it if you want it. We also have a podcast for Breaking Bad that we have going on. It's called Bad Crystal. It's an interesting show where I actually haven't seen any of the episodes of Breaking Bad. Zoheb has seen it like 15 times, and he's kind of leading me through it. I'm experiencing it for the first time with a veteran, and it's an interesting dynamic, and it's a lot of fun. And lastly, if you really want to support the show and really put all your cards on the table, we do have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature. It's $5 a month. There's only one tier. You get all access to everything that we've got going on. We've got bonus episodes. We've got off the rails kind of stuff. We've got a lot of stuff that's not going to make it to the main page, and there's a lot more geared for Patreon kind of stuff. So we really hope to see you guys over there. Like I said, plans start at $5 a month and end at $5 a month. That's the only one that we've got going on. We really hope that you guys can join up there, and we will hope to see you soon. See you guys later. Bye-bye. What's going on, guys? Coming back at you for the second half of our coverage of The People versus Larry Flynt. We're freshly squeezed, as we like to say. I've topped off my funny sauce, my Baileys with coffee, and we're good to go. Jumping right into prison. I just want to see Larry talking to Althea, and it cuts away, and it's like Red and Andy talking to each other from fucking Shawshank.
No, I just wanted she leaves and it pans over to the right and there's just this like big black guy with a bandana just ready for Larry. Here we go.
It's Boggs Diamond from Shawshank.
Oh my God.
I'd like to tell you that Larry fought a good fight and that the sisters left him alone.
I'd like to tell you that.
But prison ain't a porno. Prison is not $100 million pornographic industry.
So what to know?
Yeah. So Larry gets out after 5 months. They contest it. I like this whole fake thing that he has set up, the People's Republic for Free Press or something like that. Yeah, and he makes up the whole thing. I love it. He's like, man, this is really nice for People for United Press to invite us out here. He goes, you fucking idiot. Like, I'm paying all these people. Like, who do you think made this shit up?
This scene, this is the scene that he really made me, really reminded me of Jordan Belfort. From the Wolf of Wall Street, just how well he is able to articulate his point of view and his very kind of like out there point of view, and just how well he is. It's just how good he is at convincing people about his point. This is such a. because you got to remember, like the time period that this takes place in, like this is pornography. It's just not socially acceptable, right? But like if you put it against things like war and violence and things like that, then like it's like, why is this acceptable but this isn't? You know, and like him using that particular kind of like viewpoint really illustrates just what is wrong with the system, right? Like, so it's such a great performance from Woody Harrelson, and it's just it really just reminded me of Jordan Belfort and him just being able to impact and persuade just these massive crowds of people, you know, and bring him around to his side.
No, yeah, 100%. He's like, you know, if you have a problem with breasts and vagina, talk to the manufacturer. You know, He's like, that's not, I think that's actually a Lenny Bruce joke. You know, he got busted for obscenity a lot at the time. But this whole thing, you know, it's a great scene, and it's really insane seeing him. Like, that screen is gigantic. Like when they do the far away shot and it cuts between like, you know, Hiroshima survivors and then some woman getting like, you know, her tit licked, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? And it's such a strange juxtaposition of like these women flipping their like reaching behind them and flipping their butt cheeks around and just watch like Nazi soldiers like move. But I'm kind of like, what the fuck is the point of are you selling something? Like, what is the point of this like thing? Are you just trying to drum up like good publicity?
I took it as just publicity. Like I took it as just, you know, like, let me just make my point kind of thing.
Right. Because this thing is like, this thing is only the closest thing I can honestly think to this is like a Trump rally where it's like, but at least you were running for, you know, you were running for something, you know?
Is his point, like in hosting this, trying to change this, like trying to change the wider society's like hearts and minds and perspective about porn? Like, is that what he's doing? Like, is that your end game? Like, are you trying to make pornography more socially acceptable so you can sell more magazines? Is that what you're saying?
Right. That's one. I'm like, what ultimately is, I'm sure he's selling some merch. I'm sure he's making some money, but you're taking a bite, you know, renting this place out, paying these singers, this announcer, setting up all this equipment. Like, what exactly is the end game here? But I honestly think that, you know, he is a self-destructive individual where it's like, there's not really anything particularly to be one. I'm not having a debate up here with Billy Graham. You know, I'm just kind of doing this to disrupt the system. You know, it's just something to kind of show them that we're out there and we're doing it. You know, that's kind of what I took it as, because it's an interesting scene, but I honestly could have done without it. I really don't need it, but I like it though. I dig it. Well, next we show Arlo busting in with Courtney Love, just spread ass. Oh, Jesus.
Right, dude. It's just like, he walks in and is just like, Larry. And then he looks over to the left and he's like, hi, Althea.
hey, Arlo. She's like got her ankles up by her ears.
Her tits just like flopped out. Like, I loved it.
Right. Georgia prosecutors arrested some news dealers for selling Hustler, and the other retailers are getting nervous. Larry's prepped the jet. The cavalry's on the way. He gets arrested for renting the shop. I love as soon as he shows up, he just takes that guy's hat, and 10 seconds later, he's arrested. Yeah. And it's Crispin Glover buying the magazine.
Right. And we totally, this is, by the way, I think we kind of went past it that first time. This is the second time we see the shooter, right? I mean, like, we see the
That's right.
Shooter. This guy just reminded me of Slugworth from, like, you know, the old Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. Like, he's just that kind of the creepy guy who's hanging around the chocolate factory. But you get a sense as to, oh shit, that's not good news. This guy's up to something.
Right, and there's definitely like some foreshadowing there. You're like, what the fuck is going on? You know, why are they showing me this guy? You know, he's arrested. He's gotten right back out. There's a lot of people who support what you're saying, but they're not showing up for you. What do you have to say to that? Hey, why do I have to go to jail to protect your freedom? You know, doing this like kind of like a martyrdom kind of act. But, you know, at the same time, you see this guy and he's selling pornography and then immediately turns around and is like, I'm offering a $1 billion reward for information on who killed JFK. And you're like, holy shit, like that's kind of nuts. Or is it 500,000 or is it 1 million? I can't remember.
Million. From memory, it's 1 million. But like, this is also the scene where, you know, moving on. Asshole of the month.
Oh, yeah. That's so good, man. The funny thing is that, you know, Woody Harrelson's dad was a very notorious, I guess, was he a mobster? He murdered people. Like, Woody Harrelson's dad was Oh, dude, Woody Harrelson's dad. What
Really?
conspiracy theorists think that Woody Harrelson's dad actually killed Kennedy, and you're like, what the
Whoa,
fuck?
whoa,
But yeah,
whoa.
yes,
You're laying a lot on me right now.
Yes, Woody Harrelson's dad murdered Charles Harrelson. He died in 2007 of a heart attack, but was an American hitman and organized crime figure who was convicted of assassinating federal judge John H. Wood Jr., the first federal judge to be killed in the 20th century. He is the father of actor Woody Harrelson.
Okay, I gotta read this.
Allegations
of okay, look, we're taking a fucking time out. I gotta read this.
Oh, yeah.
Allegations of involvement in the assassinations of John F. Kennedy. In September 1980, Harrelson Sr. surrendered to police after a 6-hour standoff in which he was reportedly high on cocaine. During the standoff, he threatened suicide, stating that he had killed both Judge Wood and President JFK. In a television interview after his arrest, Harrelson said, quote, "At the same time I said I'd killed the judge, I said I'd killed Kennedy, which might give you an idea to the state of mind at the time." He said that the statements made during the standoff were, quote, "an effort to elongate my life." Joseph Chagra later testified that during Harrelson's trial that Harrelson claimed to have shot Kennedy and drew maps to show where he was hiding during the assassination. Chagra said that he did not believe Harrison's claim, and the AP reported that the FBI, quote, "apparently discounted any involvement by Harrelson in the Kennedy assassination." Dude, even just to be like implicated in it, like, you know, even just to be like close to it, I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah, and there was an escape attempt, and like a year before this movie came out. But yeah, he absolutely was a hitman, and it's so crazy to think that, you know, he gave birth to one of the chillest dudes on the planet. Woody Harrelson has a great documentary about hemp as well, and trying to legalize marijuana. It's a really, really good documentary, but I can't remember the name of it.
Can we just mention, dude? He is one of my favorite actors working today. Like Woody Harrelson is, like, he is absolutely killing it in pretty much everything that he's in. Like we talked about him briefly, I think, on No Country for Old Men. But I mean, True Detective, to me, that first season with him and Matthew McConaughey gets probably most props in that entire like season. You know, like everyone loves him in that, and I love him too in that. But like Woody Harrelson, to me, man, in that first season of True Detective, just amazing, dude. Like putting in the Lord's work. I fucking love it, man.
I've never watched True Detective. I've never gotten on that bus.
Just the first season. That's all you need to watch. Just watch the first season.
Which is funny too. A lot of people have pointed out that Woody Harrelson in No Country for Old Men is basically his dad. He's a hitman.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, oh shit, nice. That's really cool. I like this whole thing, you know, like I said, him giving the reward for, for information. All this thing is really interesting. They're trying to come up with the asshole of the month. I say Larry Flynt. That's really good. This is where we kind of get the first hints of Jerry Falwell, that name popping up, which we'll definitely get into, of Jerry Falwell.
Just really quickly while we're here, is he a name that you knew? Because I'd never heard of him before. Like, I was a total...
Yes.
Okay.
He was founder and head of a large church in the South in Virginia called Liberty University.
Right.
But I knew him because I'm a big fan of a journalist. His name is Christopher Hitchens. And Christopher Hitchens he was considered one of the 4 horsemen of modern atheism. Very smart guy who said that when he was talking about his dick, talking about sex and stuff, he goes, since my God-given member decided to give me no peace, I decided to give it no rest in return. And I was like, oh, dude, what a classy motherfucker. And he's got this Winston Churchill vibe to him. He's great. I love Christopher Hitchens. But like I said, they asshole of the month, Ruth Carter Stapleton, Jimmy Carter's wife. President at the time calls in. He's like, hello. She's like, praise the Lord, I found you. Hallelujah. Yeah. That's so good. But she is, I think I would like this woman. Like, as someone who's not a Christian, as someone who does not particularly like organized religion, I think I would like this woman very well, you know, and she even says, like, I thought you and I would hit it off. He's like, I'm a smut peddler. You're an evangelist, what do you want with me? I don't believe in labels. I think you and I could teach each other a lot. And he's like, I really can't get around to it. I can't have dinner. Larry, what the great thing about people like us is we can do whatever we want. I was like, if that's not a white lady with power, if I've ever heard, if that's not,
That's a white lady
not some
who
white
knows
privilege.
that her exactly, who knows that her husband is president. That is literally what
Right.
Yeah.
Well, brother, yeah. I was like, wait.
Right, sorry. Yes, brother is president.
I know
Sorry,
he's a
my
peanut.
bad.
I know he's a farmer. He's a peanut farmer, but no, but yeah, and I didn't know how much of a prominent role she actually played. Like in real life, Larry Flynt had like an epiphany on his jet with Ruth Carter Stapleton and came to Christ and really did all of the stuff. Really crazy to think about. I love, she's like, do you ever go to church? He's like, Christmas Eve, Easter, New Year's Eve. She's like, New Year's Eve? Like calls this bullshit. It's really good, but we kind of see this thing of him hitting it off with Ruth and Althea getting kind of jealous. This is one of the moments I don't like Courtney Love. It's just her squinting. It's like, can you ham it up a little bit more?
Right.
Like, it's sarcasm. I'm like, you squint like you're about to stab this woman, and I get it, but it's a little heavy handed. But I love where,
She's like,
they kind of
100 years old. Like,
right. Well, I
scared about.
I love what she says. She's like, hellfire, damnation, that sort of thing. That talk is almost unforgivable. And I was like, yeah, cool, man. Like, I think I could share a drink with this lady. That's what's up. But that whole thing, it's very interesting seeing where their relationship goes. And she asks, what was your childhood like? And it's like, damn, this is something that's kind of, as somebody who grew up in a religious kind of background, somebody who just asks you questions and listens to what you has to say. And she doesn't come across as very judgment. I mean, God knows, I don't know what the fuck. This lady could have been a member of the KKK for all I know. But just as she's portrayed in this movie, that is something that's missing from like a lot of Southern religious stuff from what I grew up in, what I was steeped in. She's really surprising.
She's genuinely trying to understand where Larry's coming from instead of, instead of pointing fingers and telling Larry what is right or what she believes is right. She is actually really trying to understand, and she's trying to make, don't get me wrong, she is also trying to make Larry understand her point of view. But it's a lot of, if I give you something, you can give it back to me too, right? Like, it's not one way. It's not a one-way street. It's not I invited you out here for dinner to make you try and understand my point of view. It's let's try and get to understand each other. Like, it's symbiotic. Like, it's not a one-way kind of like these are my beliefs. These are fuck you. You're doing like terrible shit. It was honestly really refreshing to watch this in 2020. Get this viewpoint. Really,
civil
really
discourse is very interesting,
and just a conversation. That's all it is. It's just a conversation,
right? This is where we start to get, Larry's conversion. I'm the last guy I want God to come tap me on the shoulder. I had an epiphany. I'm getting laid 6 times a day.
Right.
And we get a little bit more of, like I said, Althea's background, sexually abused, her family, shot, her dad shot her family in the head. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. But her being like, she's like, you're not really going to do it, are you? He goes, well, fuck you, Larry. She jumps in the tub. That's a great way to end that scene. I will say there's parts of this that I really don't like from Courtney Love, but you cannot deny the chemistry between. This is almost like a Sid and Nancy type relationship.
Yeah.
This is what this feels like. Very like when the highs are fucking high, they're high, but when the lows are fucking low, they're really, really low. Like I dig that. It's explosive any way that you cut it. Larry is eventually baptized. I love the choir. The choir director cracks me up every time. He's just so into it. Larry starts to kind of put pornography in with religion, getting it on in the Garden of Eden. It's like, oh my God, dude, that's so like, it's almost tasteless to another level. Like by trying to ascend, he somehow made it even worse of like now taking your religion and spitting in your eye with it kind of thing.
No, totally. And I wondered that as well, because someone here asks, like, are you only doing this just to sell more magazines? And that is what the end game, that, because I was thinking that too. I was like, is this some kind of ploy to, mix two things together that absolutely should not be together, like to end up selling more magazines? Like, is that what you're doing? But that's not the case, right? Like, he actually had a religious epiphany. And it's like totally not kind of like, out there to assume that he only did this to sell more magazines, like that, like these two things should 100% not meet ever.
Right. No, exactly. I love his brother, Jimmy. His delivery of the line is so great. He goes, Larry, I plead with you not to do this. Like his delivery is so sincere and like terrified. It's really great. If you do this, you're going to run this company into the ground. And yeah, it's Arlo. Arlo is like, you're just doing this to sell more magazines. He's like, Arlo, don't ever doubt my sincerity. And then Vincent Schiavelli starts laughing. Oh, I love Vincent Schiavelli, dude. And he pops up in Milos Forman. He's in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's in Man on the Moon. He's in this. Like, he is a staple of a lot of his shit. Did you ever see Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore? Have you ever seen that?
You've asked me this question on the podcast so many times, and I've never seen it.
He is terrifying in that movie.
Oh, okay.
He is one of the scariest things I remember from being from watching that movie as a child. I mean, of a lot of like non-scary movies, he is fucking terrifying in Ghost, dude. He's great. But this kind of all backfires on Larry. Nobody's buying your fucking magazines. He kind of has this discussion with Althea. He's like, I could do anything with God's help. I could bring that wall down. She's like, do it then. Do it. And you see Jimmy kind of get up off the couch and move. Like it's probably bullshit, but he won't take the chance to risk it. But I like this, basically in Georgia, I like, and I'm guessing they don't say specifically which one, because this is Alan with the eminently reasonable district attorney. And he's basically saying that they want to cut a plea bargain with Larry because the state of Georgia. So, yeah, this is from, I guess, him buying that stop and grab whatever place for an hour. And basically they want to cop a plea bargain because Larry found religion. Listen, I love that. What? I'm sorry, I have to read this word for line. I've got to read what he says. Is he sitting there with you? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, can you do me a favor? He's like, yeah, give me just a second. You tell that miserable old gray-haired bastard to go fuck himself. We're going to trial. And he's like, okay, right. He's like, oh, and God bless. And praise the Lord. And he closes the phone.
Dude, Alan plays this so well. He's just like, yeah. What is yeah.
Did you notice Larry's thing on his desk? Like where it would say Larry H. Flynt? Jesus H.
That's what I was like thinking, dude. I'm just like, is he taking the piss? He must be taking the piss.
Oh,
he doesn't think he's Jesus Christ.
Dude, I got lightheaded. I just laughed. So, and what does the H stand for? That's what I want to know. Is it Harold? Like that? What does H stand for? And like, I've heard a lot of names for Jesus. I've heard a lot of names for God. I've never been told what the H stands for. And I'm not asking you as somebody who wasn't raised as a Christian. No offense. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Like I'm brown, so I don't like, come on. Let me see. I'd be at church and somebody would pass me the communion bucket, and I'd go shukran and then take it and pass it on to the next person. You fucking child of hell. No, apparently it's something in Latin. I don't know.
Oh, okay, interesting. I was just curious. I think it actually stands for Herald. That's what I'm thinking.
I think it stands for heroin.
Jesus, heroin Christ. My favorite.
It's like, wait, hold on. I just remembered something. It's like, can you imagine if it was like The Simpsons, where it's like Homer J. Simpson, and it's just
the letter H. This is Jesus H. Christ. Shit. It's like H. No, yeah. I think my favorite kind of like, oh, Jesus Christ, is from Zodiac. Robert Downey Jr. is like, Jesus Christ on rubber crutches, Johnny. That's my favorite. So we're in court in Georgia. It's 1978. Mr. Flynt, how can you, as a good Christian, defend this filth? This is great. So at the end of this movie, we kind of have like a little capper where they kind of say, hey, this is what happened to Isaacman. Right. This is what happened to Charles Keating. This is what happened. They didn't catch his shooter, but he admitted that he shot Larry Flynt.
Okay.
And I will pull him up real quick. Okay.
Cause I looked up the fate of Keating, because I was like, Keating's pretty old, so he's not alive anymore. And Keating obviously did pass away. And they show someone else. Oh, they showed Falwell. Falwell passed away as well.
Right. Yeah. Jerry Falwell. Yeah. Passed away. March 6th, 78, during a legal battle related to obscenity in Georgia, Flynt and his lawyer, Gene Reeves Jr., were returning to Gwinnett County Courthouse when they were shot on the sidewalk on the front of the building, blah, 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 by a gunman standing near an alley across the street. The shooting left Flynt partially paralyzed, spinal cord damage, blah, blah, blah. Joseph Paul Franklin, a white supremacist and serial killer, confessed to the shootings many years later, claiming he was outraged by an interracial photo shoot in Hustler. Franklin was never brought to trial. He was never brought to trial for the attempted killing.
I would never have guessed that it was racially related, or motivated.
Dude, this guy murdered several people on like a race-related thing. And I don't want to make any excuse. He was later found to be like schizophrenic, and this was not a time when that was easily diagnosable. Mental health was not what it is now. But he definitely, and even Larry Flynt was like, he came out and was like, I am against the death penalty. I do not want this man to die. And they're like, he paralyzed you. He's like, I don't care. And he's like, he does not deserve to die because of that. And I was like, son of a bitch.
Rational.
But he actually murdered like several other people. He was never brought to trial. He's made statements indicating he believes Franklin's story. He was eventually charged in Missouri with 8 unrelated counts of murder and sentenced to death. A month before Franklin's execution in 2013, Flynt expressed his opposition to the death penalty and stated he did not want him to be executed, but he was on November 20th, 2013. He was executed anyways. But Larry Flynt says he believes him. There's no evidence to prove it. He could just be taking credit for something he didn't really do. But it matches his MO of 8 other fucking murders. So, take it as you will. Like I said, Larry is shot and paralyzed. Alan is shot as well, but he survives. This is, the irony in a porn king being shot to no longer be able to procreate is insane. Yep. Not stopping Larry Flynt, though, because now he has sex still with the use of like a prosthetic somehow. You can, and I was really? Like, how? Yes. I don't know what the details are. But I know that he uses something to still fuck his wife, whoever. He's been married like 5 times. He definitely uses some kind of contraption to help him.
He got in touch with Joe from Family Guy.
Right. Or he's got some kind of like stem from Upgrade like thing. Imagine Larry Flynt just like, his
dick's got a like mind of its own.
Right. He's just mobbing people.
So when they for you, Larry.
Yeah. Balls depleted.
Reload.
Yeah. Please wait 3 hours for optimum charge.
Friction level 9 out of 10.
Yeah. I love Ruth coming to see him. Larry, how are you? He goes,
Sorry, I just thought of something.
What?
It just fucking short circuits because it comes. And it's short circuit.
It's so backed up.
All right, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Jesus Christ, you child!
I'm back.
I'm over here with Ruth Carter Stapleton with Larry Flynt being paralyzed, and he's like, I can't ever walk again. And you're like, oh, look at my dick! Oh!
I'm just thinking of Stan penis now.
Yeah, right. Tony Stark's like, this technology was never meant to be used this much, Larry. You got to chill out.
The technology falls into the wrong hands.
Yeah. Larry says, I can never walk again. If I can't make love to my wife, I wish he had killed me. There's no God. He kind of renounces everything. I like all this where, it's understandable. His reaction is definitely understandable. Althea comes back, take all this Christian shit down. We are going back to our roots. We are smut peddlers again.
She's so happy. She's so happy with it. I love it.
Right. I fucking love that. Well, I love them bringing Larry home.
Yes.
And they're like, so what do we know? He's like, well, I think it was the FBI. I think it was the CIA. I think it was the KKK. He's like, well, you've only narrowed it down to like every fucking crazy. But the crazy thing is, them saying KKK, I think Arlo is the one that says racial photo shoots. And it's like, yeah, you actually kind of hit the money on the head. Like, right. That's very interesting. They, bring up that it could be, the JFK, somebody trying to silence, somebody tried to silence him about that. There's got to be some place where, they allow perverts like me and just leave me in peace. Basically is what he says. And they move out to California, I believe, right? I took this as moving. I don't know what, because they shows them in a limo and then they cut back And I don't know what that iconic building is with the three black domes. I think I don't know where that is, but I know it says Hollywood in the next shot. But I don't know what that building is that they're referring to. Apparently, this mansion that they filmed in was.
You see you see Wilshire, like one Wilshire, which is Wilshire Boulevard in LA, and then you see the Walk of Fame. So yeah, it's definitely California.
Right, and it even says like Hollywood. But I was wondering, I was like, what is this building? Where I'm like, maybe lead with the Hollywood sign, because I don't know what the hell this building is you're showing me. Apparently, this mansion was actually Larry Flint's at one point. It's not anymore, but it wasn't at the time of filming. But at one point, it definitely was Larry Flint's. But Larry's not doing good. He's obviously strung out on drugs. I just gave you twice your dose. He's begging for more, and this is where we see Althea kind of start to dip her toe into it as well. This is kind of the downward spiral here.
This is the moment in the movie where Courtney Love declined to participate in the rest of the movie, and they replaced her with Harley Quinn, because after this, she starts looking more and more like Harley Quinn, man. It is crazy.
Dude. No, I never really caught that. Like the crazy hair, like all of that stuff. They're shooting up together. They're sharing needles. What I love though is, she kind of shoots up, she passes out, and I think right after that is when, that door shuts and the months just click, 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 click. It's like, oh my God. Like what the fuck, man? Just 6 years of your life, like gone like that. Larry has his like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Better Call Saul doctor show up.
This is the guy who I said looks really like Wilford Brimley.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Larry, these pills are for your diabetes. Apparently, this guy really was one of the doctors that kind of like under the table helped like Larry Flynt.
I can believe that.
But he lets him know, hey, listen, there's a life-saving operation. At this rate, we're running out of options. It's really not looking good. And it ends up being a total success. Larry comes out clean on the other side. He's not in any pain, quits drugs cold turkey. I love Althea trying to shove the pills like in his mouth and stuff.
This was sad to me, man.
Crazy.
No, sorry. I was just going to mention, he is out of it. He was. This conversation is really tough. It's really tough to watch because she is quite clearly addicted to the drugs now, right? She's way too far gone. There's no pulling her back. And he is just like, I took those drugs because I was sick. I was injured. They actually made me feel better. Now that I'm feeling better, I have no need for it. And she can't wrap that around her head, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I love. He's like, I feel good, and she's like, you feel good? He goes, yeah, I feel great, and she's like, you're either a fucking crook or you're hooking me or you're a liar. And he's like, is it so hard to believe that I don't feel any pain like after the surgery? I think it has something to do with
like a Black Widow situation where, the woman is like keeping her man like really like medicated or like ill just so she can keep taking the drugs herself.
Right. She just keeps pumping his veins at night full of the stuff.
Right.
And that's what's interesting though. It's just like the fact that it's no longer acceptable, as in like, I was taking these because I was in pain, this is not this, you're just a spectator, you're a tourist in this. And she, if I don't take it, I'll go into seizures and, I'll get really sick and it makes me feel good. Oh my God, just trying to throw out all the excuses in the world. But dude, he's like, you're going to go cold turkey? He goes, I'm going cold turkey. And so are you. Okay. The look on her face is just like, oh God, please no, Larry. But I mean, that's essentially, it never really works out though. It never ends up. I mean, she basically never goes cold turkey as far as I can tell. I don't think she ever really bounced back. He kind of comes back into the fold. He calls, he shows up and he's like, what's your name? What the fuck is her name? I'm drawing a blank. God damn it. Sophie. He's like, what's your name, Sophie? Tell the pervert is back. The pervert is back.
By the way,
pervert is back.
This giant building, Flynt Publications, that's some big dick energy, man. Like this is,
dude, yeah.
I love how the movie just shows you like the passing of time. Like I love that. I love seeing just how far Hustler has become. Like, it has like how far it's come in the 6 years that he's been in a 6 year stupor. Like,
Well, yeah, that and the changing of the guard. Once they get in, this guy who's like, well, Mr. Flynt, I look back at the stuff you did in the 70s, and and it was sort of racy and crazy, but Reagan has reshaped. Yes. Yeah. So this guy, this asshole, the guy who starts talking about Reagan, is the guy that Matt Damon goes, "How about them apples?" and Good Will Hunting.
Nice.
I've never seen Good Will Hunting, but I know that scene, and I watched it, and I was like, I know that guy. And it took me about 10 minutes, and I found him on IMDb finally, and he is credited as blow dried asshole in this.
Have you seen? Okay, very very brief tangent. Have you seen Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
No.
Oh my god. Yeah, I need to link you something afterwards. Like it's there's a scene in that where they go to Hollywood, and it's literally like
part 2.
No, yeah. So it's part 2.
I have seen that. Yes.
Okay, and Gus Van Sant is like sitting there counting his money, and it's like, "I'm busy, gentlemen. I'm busy."
Yeah, I've seen that. I definitely know the. I definitely have seen that scene. I love Larry's shirt. Jesus is an anarchist. This is so good,
dude. His shirt, he ups his shirt game later. We'll get to the courtroom.
Oh yes,
fuck
he
this
definitely
court.
ups his shirt game. I so wanted it. Like his t-shirt collection in this is so good. I'm like, I want some of those, man. Larry says, I'm the big kahuna around here. The plan is simple. The establishment took my manhood away from me, but they fucked up and they left the part with the brain, and I'm going to use it to get back at them. And then we fall into this weird thing with like the DeLorean tapes.
Yeah.
With Norm Macdonald. I love seeing Norm Macdonald. Don't get me wrong. Norm Macdonald is one of the greatest underrated comedians that has ever lived. He's absolutely hilarious. Like,
I was just waiting for him to just go, "Where's Billy? He's at school, man." Yeah.
Dude, I saw an interview where he was on Conan O'Brien with I think one of the co-stars of Chairman of the Board with Carrot Top in like the early 90s, a terrible Carrot Top movie. And Norm Macdonald is just like, "Oh, what's this movie you got going on here?" And she's like, "Oh, it's called Chairman of the Board with Carrot Top." And he's like, "Oh, you know what? Another really good name for that movie would be Society's Poison." And he's just making these terrible jokes. And Conan O'Brien's like, "So there is no, the name of the movie is to be determined, right?" And she goes, "Oh, no, it's Chairman of the Board." And Conan's like, "Oh, okay, Chairman of the Board." And he looks at Norm Macdonald and goes, "Yeah, try to do something with that, you sick freak." And Norm Macdonald goes, "I bet you it's Chairman of the BORED." And dude, I lost my shit. It's so fucking clever and funny, man. But this is where he's got this tape basically saying that I'm still confused, honestly, by a lot of this. What exactly is going on? I believe that he's trying to say that this is entrapment on the FBI or the CIA's post. I believe what actually happened, and I don't know if he actually. I don't know if this actually, affected the case with John DeLorean.
I actually think that at this point in the movie, Larry Flynt is just being as much of an anarchist as possible and trying to bring down the government in any way, shape, or form as possible, or making them look bad publicly as possible so he can succeed in his own personal cases. I think that's kind of like what it is. Like, I'm going to publicly bring down the government, whether it's the FBI, whether it's the CIA, whether it's, whoever that's trying to prosecute me in any other way possible. And I think that's the I guess the point of this whole kind of like thing. But this blows up into a huge thing, dude. Like the FBI gets pissed and everything, right? Like this is a huge thing,
right? And this is 1982. DeLorean was charged by the U.S. government for trafficking cocaine following a videotape sting operation. Blah blah blah. The FBI set him up with more than 60 pounds of cocaine, worth about $6.5 million, in a hotel near L.A. after arriving from New York. And the FBI say to DeLorean,
I think we briefly mentioned this on the Back to the Future episode. I think
we did. Yeah,
very briefly.
I think we did.
Yeah.
Basically what happened, they said he was the financier to help his financially declining company in a scheme to sell 220 pounds of blow, estimated at $24 million. Now, the crazy thing is, a former neighbor who reported to his FBI superiors that DeLorean had approached to ask him about setting up a cocaine deal. In truth, his former neighbor, his name is James Hoffman, had called DeLorean and suggested the deal, which he accepted as part of Hoffman's efforts to receive a reduced sentence for a 1981 federal. So this guy was in trouble and set up John DeLorean and basically created something to save himself time. Taken together and basically Hoffman, whose name was redacted in the original indictment, also stated that he was aware of DeLorean's financial troubles before he contacted him. Taken together, these two elements allowed DeLorean to successfully defend himself at trial with a procedural defense of police entrapment. So he got out of these charges because it was technically entrapment. And I guess that's basically what the issue of with the video is, that this is video evidence. Later on, Larry Flynt said that this was staged, that this was not true. However, I'm 99% sure this footage that they used for the movie is actually John DeLorean's. Like, I think that is actually John DeLorean getting busted. But this whole thing is very interesting. Him going back and forth with, fucking with the John DeLorean tape and stuff, and how much trouble it gets him in is just absolutely insane. Like, it just the fact that it played a contributing factor to John DeLorean getting out of a huge, he would have probably have gone to prison for the rest of his life. Like, that's absolutely insane. 220 pounds of blow. Yeah, right. You're fucking gone, dude. See ya.
That's Pablo Escobar levels, too. That's insane.
Right. Absolutely. This is where we kind of see this Campari ad, the liquor Campari. This is Jerry Falwell talks about his first time. This is really where we're starting to get, again, we're getting kind of like Fed dropped this, I guess, Jerry Falwell kind of aspect of stuff. Larry served the subpoena to give up the source of his tape. I'm just going to kind of take this part as a chunk because they go back and forth of him going to court. Really, my favorite part of this whole thing is, he issues a bench warrant for his arrest. He refuses to give up his source. The best part has got to be when he was like, "I'm keeping a very tight leash on your, on your client. He is not to leave the state of California." And it just cuts to Edward Norton running across the one way. He's like, "Larry, God damn it! I swear to God, if you leave." But
I also love him like in the wheelchair, just like watching the monitors as like they're coming to get him because he's finished the warrant, right? And he's just like waiting for ABC. He's like, come on, ABC. Come on, ABC.
Dude. Yes, this is this might be one of my favorite moments of the whole movie is when they start storming his house. He's got the shirt that says, "I wish I was black." And I'm like, oh my God, dude, what the fuck? But yeah, basically, I've turned the whole world into a tabloid is his whole thing. Yep. Like, damn, that's fucking crazy. But yeah, this whole thing can really be summarized by that. He gets served with a bench warrant for his arrest. He refuses to show up for the subpoena. Eventually, he is fined. He's going to fine him $10,000 a day if he refuses to give up his source. I love the hustler chicks coming in and dumping the money on the floor. It's so fucking baller, dude. I fucking love it.
Yeah, but it will also not hold up. Right? Like, you are not
right.
Like, the court never specified how it's going to take its payment.
Right. Yeah. Now, this whole thing where I read a little bit about this. He was talking about this woman, I think Vicky Morgan. She was Alfred Bloomingdale's mistress, and she did, like, Alfred Bloomingdale was really good friends with the Reagans, and she was basically an escort. And Alfred Bloomingdale had set her up huge. And when he died, his wife cut her off, obviously. And it ended up being a big thing where she was writing a book to expose a lot of people, and her roommate beat her to death with a baseball bat. And it's fucking really random. A lot of people thought she was set up to be murdered, but unfortunately the guy was just crazy and beat her to death. But what they say, what she would have exposed would have really blown wide open a lot of crazy shit about these people. Larry comes in, he's got the helmet on, he's wearing the American flag diaper, he has to pay $50,000 in bail, like right on the spot. And this time we'll take a cashier's check. This is the last time he's in this court with this judge, the fucking white suit and a black shirt that says "fuck this court." I'm like, dude, you really think you could get away with that? No. I don't think you could get away with that.
No way in hell. Like, there is just, I'm sorry. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, this judge and the one that we get after this, just before the Supreme Court, there is no standing for this. Like, you wouldn't even be allowed inside the court. Like, you get stopped at the doors. Like, there's just no way.
Right. And I like it because he tones it down in the Supreme Court. he just sits in the back. He's chill. I don't know if he has anything. I don't remember him having anything vulgar on. Like, he's just kind of chilling in the back eating an orange. I do remember him eating the orange and giving the rinds to the security guard to throw away. That makes me laugh. My favorite part of this whole thing is he's like, are you ready to reveal your source? He's like, the samurai. And he's like, excuse me? He's like, the samurai is currently undergoing acupuncture treatment for a groin injury. And Alan tries to say, no, it's okay, Alan. That's my favorite, dude. I died laughing at his delivery of that. He fires Alan. Alan's like, you know what? Fuck you. I've had enough. Represent yourself. There's no cursing in this courtroom. He starts spitting. They put a gag on him.
Which
this whole thing
is also
is
not legal. Like, I mean, this is, we were talking about off air, the trial of the Chicago 7. This happens in the trial of the Chicago 7. Not legal, because you instantly look, it's not legal because you're physically assaulting someone, but also to the jury. I don't think there's a jury here. I'm not particularly sure, but like in that movie, you've made your defendant look sympathetic because he's being like gagged, and then the jury is just like, oh my god, look at that guy being gagged. So that's a automatic like mistrial there. But like here, it's just like, dude, like that is not acceptable in a court of law. I'm sorry, you just can't gag someone.
I feel like I watched like a bunch of courtroom. I love watching like courtroom freakouts and stuff like that, where people get sentenced, and they murdered some kid and they cry for like 40 minutes because they're sentenced to 900 years in prison. But I've seen one of those like recently, like in the last 5 years, somebody with a ball gag in their mouth because they were either talking or spitting, or they were looking at the victims' families and saying just crazy shit, but they ball gagged this fucking guy. And I was like, for the shit he was saying, I remember being like, thank you, dude. Jesus Christ. But I mean, really, what do you expect? They put this ball gag, they tape his mouth. Are you going to act normal? He's like, yeah, immediately throws an orange. And he's fighting to the bitter end. He's ripping the mic out of the table. He asked for bail because he's being sentenced to 15 months at a maximum, a psychiatric facility. And Larry Flynt was totally found to be like bipolar later on. He is kind of, fucked up. Yeah. And yeah, this is where this definitely, again, it feels like another lapse of time where Larry is just in this like loss. He's just in this like limbo. But as this is going on, this is where these divinity students at Liberty University bring the Campari ad up to Jerry Falwell. And there's, the whole thing about him having sex with his mother in an outhouse.
Mother in an outhouse.
Dude, this is so great.
I love it.
Yeah, and right on the heels of that, everything is starting to crash down around Larry Flynt. You're in psychiatric prison. You are going to be sued by Jerry Falwell here in just a little bit. Althea tells you she has AIDS. That she's basically extremely sick, and she's sick, as she puts it, and she has AIDS. Larry, geez, dude, he looks insane. The stubble, like the bloodshot eyes. But what's really fucked up that makes me really sad about this is she says nobody at Hustler will shake her hand. Nobody will talk to her. And at the time, like, that was kind of a fear that people didn't know how you got AIDS. They thought you could share a drink or a toilet seat, and that's how you got it. But the fact that it actually is, like, I remember the first time watching this and getting kind of emotional because you see, even though Larry is fucked up, even though Larry is just gone, the second Althea walks in and she's like, people won't shake my hand, and he kind of tears up and he's like, they won't look at you, like they won't talk to you. He doesn't give a fuck about himself. All he gives a shit about is like, yeah, my actions landed me here, but you are out there, and that is not how the people I built in my empire will treat you. I think that's so fucking awesome. I love that. Sophie, oh yes sir. Code Pink. I love that. That's his pink for pussy. I love that's his fucking code.
Good. Can I?
Larry calls everybody. Oh yeah. Go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask. Did you read the real Jerry Falwell article?
No, I didn't. Son of a bitch, hit me.
It's okay. Look, it's a bit lengthy, so I'm not gonna go through all of it. But like, let me just try and read some for you. This is the fake Campari ad that Hustler put up, and this became obviously the landmark Falwell versus Hustler case. But anyway, this is the article. So Falwell. My first time was in an outhouse outside Lynchburg, Virginia. Interviewer. Wasn't it a little cramped? Falwell. Not after I kicked the goat out. Interviewer. I see. You must tell me all about it. Falwell. I never really expected to make it with Mum. But then, after she showed all the other guys in town such a good time, I figured, what the hell? Interviewer.
Oh.
But your mum? Isn't that a little bit odd? Falwell. I don't think so. Looks don't mean that much to me in a woman. Interviewer. Go on. Falwell. Well, we were drunk off our God-fearing asses on Campari, ginger ale, and soda. That's called a fire and brimstone at the time. And Mum looked better than... Mum looked better... Hold on. And Mum looked better than a Baptist whore in a $100 donation.
Oh, my God.
Interviewer. I'm going to read this whole thing, actually. It's not too much longer.
Yeah.
Interviewer. Campari in the crapper with Mum. How interesting. Well, how was it? Falwell. The Campari was great, but Mum passed out before I could come. Interviewer. Did you ever try it again? Falwell. Sure. Lots of times. But not in the outhouse. Between Mum and the shit, the flies were too much to bear. Interviewer.
Oh, my God.
Interviewer. We meant the Campari. Falwell. Oh, yeah. I always get sloshed before I go out to the pulpit. You don't think I could lay down all that bullshit sober, do you?
Jesus.
That is amazing. That is amazing. That's the entire article.
That's fucking... Here's the thing. I think that's amazing, and I hate Jerry Falwell. But that is like... That's almost asking for it. That's almost asking, like, that's like putting a target on your back. But it's great. You have incest, you have an outhouse, you have liquor, you have,
and then you have like slosh against. You have the slide against religion at the end, right? Like, I can't talk that bullshit without being drunk. Yeah, they're like it's pretty much all in there, right?
Whew, that made me sweat, good. And I don't believe any. I was just like, oh, fuck.
I mean, like you can really tell. Yeah, I mean, just the veracity of that. Yeah, I mean, if I was Jerry Falwell, I'd fight hard against that as well. So.
That has some venom to it, man. Yeah. That's got some teeth. Yeah. That's rough. Oh, whew. So Larry calls in. He fires everybody. Which is they kind of take it half-heartedly. Althea goes to see Alan. They're getting. You don't see exactly what it is, but they're being sued by Jerry Falwell. Alan says, hey, take it to whoever Larry's lawyers are. And you are our lawyers, Alan. Like, I like her delivery here. She's good. There are moments where she's really good. She actually was with Edward Norton for like a few years. They were an item for a long time.
Yeah. Did you like how she had to be physically carried into the office?
Yeah. Oh, well, at this point, it's like, I gotta admit, if somebody comes back and they're like, hey, you have AIDS, I would be, Larry, where's the drugs? Mm-hmm. Like, fucking hit me, dude. Like, I'm gonna stay doped up. There's just no way I would stick my dick anywhere near Courtney Love. I'm sorry.
She looks like AIDS. Like if you were to personify AIDS here, like she looks like it.
Well, it's not, and don't get me wrong, that's with the character and stuff. She's been fucked up on drugs. She's dying of a terrible disease. But personally, no way in hell. There's something about Courtney Love that just kind of scares me, and I don't know what it is. There's a really, really great book. I think it's called like Love and Death, but it's about Kurt Cobain's air quote suicide. And they try to point a lot of stuff to Courtney Love, but they meet Courtney Love's dad. And Courtney Love's dad meets them at like a grocery store and then drives like 15 minutes to the other side of town to make sure that Courtney Love has not followed the guys that are following her dad. Oh, and her dad is like, I will not have anything to do with her. And apparently Frances Bean Cobain, their daughter, Kurt Cobain's daughter, apparently she won't, as far as I can tell, they have like a really bad feud between the two of them. But I just, man, what a talented, fucked up individual. But he, Alan goes to see Larry, and he basically tells him he's, hey, I know the timing is lousy, but do you remember that little Campari ad? And I love Larry's kind of like, the one with Jerry Falwell and his outhouse and mother. He's like, yeah. He goes, well, he saw it. And I guess it's safe to say he didn't really find it all that funny, and he is suing you for $40 million. And it's like the air.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, for libel and intentional infliction of emotional distress. And he's asking for $40 million. And the way Larry's face, he's just,
Yeah.
And it's gone. He's
But
like,
then
this
it's
is Jerry Falwell.
Tennessee.
Yes, this is Jerry Falwell in his home state suing you for $40 million. And it's genius because, this is not, obviously, I don't think that Larry Flynt just had that in his back pocket. It probably took some research, to figure out exactly what happened. He's suing me. He goes, for heaven's sake, on what grounds? Well, you Xeroxed his ad. And you sent it out, in a million fundraising letters. He's like, so? And you didn't ask for permission. That's copyright infringement. He's like, the depth of his depravity has no bounds.
I love that line. Dude, that might as well be the line of the movie. The depth of his depravity knows no bounds. Like, that could be the tagline on the poster.
Right. And this is Larry, at his worst at this court appearance. He's banging his head against the metal on the van. The U.S. District Court, Roanoke, Virginia, 1984. Alan eats Jerry Falwell's ass for breakfast, though. This is so good. Him just absolutely tearing him apart. He sets him up. He's like, you've achieved a certain notoriety. You're a great man. You've done a lot of stuff. He's like, you ever had sex with your mother? Dude, it's like a fucking, it's like an uppercut, dude. You're the moral majority. Your membership is over 5 million. You've been awarded and recognized for efforts all over America. He's setting him up so well that even Falwell can't see. He is setting you up. You are the person of the year in good housekeeping. So how could anybody reasonably think that this is what happened? And I'll admit, having the ad read to me, it depends on if it is. I could see where somebody might take that seriously, if they don't get the context of it. That's the only thing. If they don't get the context, I get that. But it is so ridiculous that eventually you have to hit a point and go, there's no way Jerry Falwell said this. Like, there's no fucking way.
It's satire. Look, we live in a world right now in 2020 where satire is so rampant and it's everywhere. It's in our social media, it's in our TV, it's in our movies. South Park, like Family Guy, all of these things are satirical in nature. The Onion, we have a thing here called the Batuta Advocate, which calls out all of these satirical things. But it's interesting to me. It's not even interesting to me. It's hard for me to imagine a world where satire like this didn't exist and people took it seriously. We are so, I guess, spoiled by satire. Where it's to the point where it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. To the point where it's just is that legit? Are you being legit here? Because I don't know if you're making a joke. But here it's just nope, we don't even understand satire. It needs to be explained. Dude, when you need to explain a joke to someone, that's when the joke didn't really work, right? That's when you're just I don't really know. But then that's also because you made that joke not understanding your audience, right? So you didn't really understand who you were telling this joke to, so now you're forced to explain it. That's kind of what this reminds me of.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's only gotten worse as time has gone on because with internet deep fakes, with stuff like there has been, how many times have you seen somebody share an Onion article unironically? Yeah. And somebody have to explain to them, no, that's a joke. You don't get the joke. He asked him, have you ever had a few too many at lunch and went back to the radio? He's like, no, that is a totally outrageous suggestion. And he's like, that's totally outrageous. You don't think that some people, despite your reputation, might have reason to believe that you could do that? I would find it very difficult to believe. And he has signed his own death warrant. So reasonably, you're telling me that nobody could think that these statements about you were true. Yes, that's what I've been saying. He's like, all right, here we go. Let me get my fork and knife because I'm going to put my bib on and have your fat, juicy, porky pig southern ass for dinner.
I don't want to eat his chin.
This is so good. Oh, dude. This guy, he looks kind of delicious. Reverend Falwell, at the beginning of this trial, Judge Kirk gave very specific instructions to this jury, okay? She said, if a reasonable person could not believe that Hustler magazine describes actual facts about Jerry Falwell, then you must dismiss the libel claim. He's like, do you remember this? And he's like, obviously not. Yeah. That's so fucking good. What does he say? He's like, why are you suing my client for libel? He's like, I'm not a lawyer, Mr. Isaacson. He goes, great, because I'm a lawyer and I can't figure it out either. Right. This is probably my favorite scene with Edward Norton. That's why I almost quoted this word for word, is he just destroys him. But it sucks because you feel Alan's frustration where he does all of this. He is fucking Michael Jordan out there. And then, Larry turns around and does this like fucking crazy bullshit. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Fartwell. The whole thing of, yes, Christopher Columbus, Cornwallis.
Like when he took, like watching it again, when you see Alan take the case and it's just like, God damn, you don't really know what you're in for. And then like seeing him work so hard to defend this guy, like,
yes.
And look, in the story of the movie, he got shot, right? Like, granted, he didn't get shot in real life, but in the story of the movie, he got shot, literally took a bullet for this guy. And he is still going to bat for you, even after you publicly fired him, which, by the way, was on a public record. Like, that would have been recorded.
Right.
So, like, he is still going to bat for you, and you're still going to do this, like, fartwell bullshit. Like,
right.
It's moments like this that doesn't... And I don't think that Woody Harrelson and Milos Forman intentionally set out to make Larry Flynt likable by the end. I think he's supposed to be... we're supposed to understand his point of view in that... he is publishing content that just should be published, right? Like that people would want to see. But I don't think he's supposed to be super likable or super, 100% sympathetic all of the time,
Right. And you can actually, I'm pretty sure you can find him in court at some points during this time on YouTube. Like there's like video of it, the real Larry Flynt. That's very interesting. But are you also known as Larry Flynt? He's like, AKA Jesus H. Esquire Flynt. And Alan's reaction, Jesus Christ, dude. That, for Christ's sakes, that's what he says. God damn it, that's so good. But yeah, he basically says, you
that's what I'm saying.
Did this because
judge is so fucking patient, dude. Like, she's just like,
right,
quiet in the courtroom. Is that all you have to say? Is that all you have to say right now?
Well, and the thing I love, he's like, I have it that Mr. Fartwell is a liar, a glutton, and a sheepophile. And he's like, you deliberately created this. You wanted to, you wanted to cause my client trouble. He's like, you wanted to destroy his character, to assassinate it. And it's like, oh, that's so good, man. I fucking love this. This whole thing mocking about, religious, religious leaders and, politicians and stuff. And it's the one time that Larry actually kind of holds to what he's saying. He's like, what was your intention to hold, so it was your intention to hold him as a hypocrite, didn't you? He goes, yeah, that's what he is. And it's like, oh, this is the one time you cut through the bullshit and actually say what you mean and stick to it.
And when it happens, when he actually admits it, it's really refreshing. It's just like, oh, thank you. Like for us, like for the audience, it's like a breath of like fresh air,
Yes. It was your intent to destroy his integrity, his livelihood, if you could, to assassinate it. That's so fucking great. Of course, it's a weird decision. He's not guilty of libel. He's inflicting emotional distress. He has to pay him $200,000. Of course, Fartwell considers this the win. This is where, Larry, I think Larry eventually is able to come home after this, and he comes back to Hustler magazine. Everybody thinks he's going to get fired. The security guard that's always with him, he's got the mustache and kind of like the crew cut, kind of the bigger guy. His name is Doug. He is actually, at the time, was Larry Flynt's bodyguard.
Oh, nice.
Was a real bodyguard. And I like this. He comes back and everybody thinks, they're fired. And he, calls over Jimmy and he's like, it's cool, bro. Don't worry about it. Like, you can kind of see that Larry is cooling off, that he's getting back to his normal old self. And I love as everybody, he's like, you remember Althea, shake her hand. And it's like, yes, I fucking love that, dude. Like, because there's moments where you watch Larry and he's a fucking crazy person and he's calling himself Jesus H. Esquire. And then he's like, no, you shake her fucking hand. And I was like, yes, like this woman that we've worked with for years that sat around tables with us and we joked and stuff. You do not treat her any fucking differently. Right. And I was like, I love that. I think it's fantastic. But I mean, it's kind of, it's short lived though. Unfortunately, this scene is really hard to watch. As she goes to take the bath, Larry gives her a ride in there. And he's talking to the doctor. He's like, what are they doing in Europe? That money is no option. Basically, I'll do anything to save her life. And unfortunately, Althea, I think officially she drowned to death.
Yeah.
But like I said, Larry Flynt said that she would have died within the year anyways.
Right, yeah, exactly. So Flynt says that at the time she was in advanced stages of AIDS and would have died within the year regardless. At that point, he was taking care of her and claims that she was practically bedridden. Dude, she was the fourth wife of Larry Flynt.
Yeah, I think the longest running too. I think I might be wrong. I think unless there's one that kind of beat that record, but this is what sets in motion a train of events. We cut to Jerry Falwell. You cannot mock God. You cannot fool God. If you violate his laws, God Almighty will judge you. Let me see here. AIDS is a plague. And this is crazy shit that he would actually say. These perverted lifestyles have to stop. I am going to read a small something. It's not anything crazy. This is an article composed The Worst of Jerry Falwell. Now, this is stuff that's absolutely true that Jerry Falwell said on September the 11th. And this is just quoted word for word. The abortionists have got to bear some burden for this because God will not be mocked. And when we destroy 40 million little innocent babies, we make God mad. I really believe that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and the lesbians who were actively trying to make that alternative lifestyle, the ACLU, People for the American Way, all of them who have tried to secularize America, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen.
Jesus Christ. That was on September 11th.
That is an actual that was on the fucking day of September the 11th.
Dude, you got bigger issues, man. What the fuck?
Oh, this is Jerry Falwell on Feminist. I listen to Feminist and all these other gals. These women just need a man in the house. That's all they need. Most of the feminists need a man to tell them what time of day it is and to lead them home. And they blew it, and they're mad at all men. Feminists hate men. They're sexist. They hate men, and that's their problem. Direct quote.
I 100% believe that he was fucked in the ass by a priest when he was younger. Like, I mean, there's no fucking way that he wasn't. Like, that is...
Here's one that'll hit home for you. Jerry Falwell on Islam. I think Muhammad was a terrorist. I read enough of the history of his life written both by Muslims and non-Muslims that he was a violent man, a man of war.
Sure.
Jerry Falwell, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Jerry.
I just wish it cut to like an old 80s like sitcom audience, like just like everybody laughing. What a fucking piece of fat shit, dude.
Seriously.
Man. I'm sorry.
I'm glad that he passed away in 2007 of a massive coronary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at him. There's and his son's really a piece of work too. I don't want to get into that. But there's a great quote from Christopher Hitchens where he said, once said, if you could give Jerry Falwell Sr. an enema, then you could bury him in a matchbox. I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. Like, that is such a great put down. This guy is so full of shit. But anyways, that's really what sparks this whole thing with Larry, that he wants to take this higher to the Supreme Court. It's a great scene between him and Edward Norton. You know what? They would probably hear us. And this is the kind of cases that lawyers kill for. They dream about it and they would probably hear us, but I'm not taking you, Larry. He's like, because I don't believe your bullshit anymore. I think that's great. It's the one time you really see somebody kind of stand up to Larry. And you watch Larry buckle under the bullshit and just be like, I can't do this on my own. Althea's gone. A lot of my friends are gone. A lot of these people are gone. Like I have to kind of heed to someone else's call if I want to be able to take this higher. And I want to basically avenge Althea in a symbolic way. I think that's really interesting. And he says straight up, he's like, we're friends. He's like, this is, I like that this goes beyond this is just professional relationship. I would love to be remembered for something meaningful. I think that's really, really cool. And I'd love James Cromwell gives Falwell's attorney the stack of hustlers. He's like, is that the Tin Man? He goes, yes, that's the Tin Man. That's so good. So the Supreme Court hears the case. This whole scene is really fantastic. Like you said, it's fun to see kind of Al Isaacson cutting up with the Supreme Court justices. As a lawyer, like, what did you think about this being the climax of the movie?
Well, one of them is and Judge Antonin Scalia, who is Scalia is like a like the, I guess the one of the judges that worked with Cheney when he came up with the law to, I guess, what is it? God damn it! It was used in the movie Vice. Basically, it's emergency powers and how a vice president can use powers. But yeah, look, Scalia is like bigger than, he's larger than life. This was good, man. I really enjoyed this. This was really great to watch. It was interesting to watch, like, this being a bit lighter than what I expected. Like, this was, they're laughing, they're cracking jokes. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like seeing them kind of, everything's been so like uptight and everybody's being so serious so far, and to see them kind of just like cracking jokes. And he's like, we wanted to bring Jerry Falwell down to our level, a level that was admittedly much lower than his. And he's like, I know I'm not supposed to join, but that's the point.
Totally. Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. This is like my favorite Edward Norton moment. Like, this is the moment where I was just like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, you're really selling Flynt's kind of like point of view, right? And that's really what you kind of like need to do. And he's doing such a great job at it.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. This whole scene is great. He's saying, we just want to, let's deflate this stuffed shirt and bring him down to our level. And what was the point of this ad? He's like, it's no different than Gary Trudeau saying that Reagan has no brain, or Johnny Carson saying what he says on the Tonight Show.
Right.
I think it's actually
satire, right?
Right. Well, I think it's actually Scalia who starts talking about the rule of public satire. What about other people who value, should they be able to enter a public life into public service? The rule you give us says that if you stand for public office or become a public figure in any way, you cannot protect yourself or indeed your mother against a parody of committing incest with her in an outhouse. Do you think that George Washington would have stood for public office, if that was the consequence? I love the comparison that he does, that there's a political cartoon from over 200 years ago with him pulling like a donkey, and it says, oh, this donkey is leading an ass to Washington. He's like, I can handle that. Yeah, I think George can handle that.
I love that. I love that response. Yeah, I can handle that. I think George can handle that. Yeah, totally, dude. Absolutely. I mean, like, look, if you're in the public spotlight, you're going to have to expect it. You just are. Like, it's just gonna happen. People are gonna make jokes. People are not gonna agree with your policies. Like, so expect some level of, I guess, criticism, right? Like a criticism in the form of satire.
Right. Well, and he even, like, Scalia's the one who goes, is there any, that's a far cry. And he's like, it might be a far cry in terms of taste, but not in terms of content. That technically they're textbook the same thing. It's just satire. That's all it is. Basically, they kind of go back and forth, and he kind of makes his point. I like that we don't really hear anything from Jerry Falwell's side of things, that we don't hear their arguments, that it's really, this is Edward Norton's moment to, like, this is his fighting Drago in Russia. This is his, like, taking this shit to task. And he's so well spoken, and so, God, he's just such a so great. But they, outside the courtroom, he's like, the way that he says, he's like, because if the First Amendment will protect, what did Grutman call me? Scumbag like me, it'll protect all of you. I hate Larry, do you have any regrets? And I was like, Jesus, talk about setting somebody up, man, for like, oh, hey, we need a good transition here. But it's sad, man. The way they cut through the house, the empty swimming pool, all the shrubs like dead, like you can tell the party is over. This feels like George Young, doing the monologue at the end of Blow. It's fucking over, man. We see these giant empty rooms, this big picture of Althea. It's really fucking sad. And just watching him, seeing these old home movies, his wife is alive. He's not paralyzed anymore. And Alan calls. They just brought their decision in. It's a unanimous decision, lady. And Larry Rehnquist wrote it himself. He's like, cut the bullshit, Alan. He said, no, I want to hear this. At the heart of the First Amendment is the recognition of the fundamental importance of the free flow of ideas. Freedom to speak one's mind is not only an aspect of individual liberty, but essential to the quest for truth and the vitality of society as a whole. In the world of debate about public affairs, many things done with motives that are less than admirable are nonetheless protected by the First Amendment.
Love it. Love it.
Fucking love it, dude. Fucking love it. And he just says, thank you, Alan. He's like, thank you. Don't mention it. Click. Hang up the phone. End of movie. That's it. Fucking
I
love
it,
dude.
man. Like it's such a great win. Such a good way to go out. Like it's such a good way for the movie to go out on. You need to watch The Post. Like Steven Spielberg's The Post. Like really similar kind of like, I guess, thematics, right? I mean, like it's all about the First Amendment and the freedom of speech and liberty.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is the lead, yeah. Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, yeah. Okay. Really, really awesome. But yeah, I love this story, dude. I love the idea of this young kid from Kentucky who, you know, used to sell moonshine, changed the way people view the First Amendment and view the law. And like, yeah, it's really, really such an important story, you know, and I can't believe I'd never seen it before. Sorry, I'm kind of like getting into my closing thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, they were here, man.
Yeah, I loved it. I love this movie. I think it was really important. I think it's really well acted. I think it's really well shot, well directed. You know, Woody Harrelson is just goddamn, you know, powerhouse in this movie. It's such an important story, and it's so it's so entertainingly told. It's a black comedy. It's not a, you know, hefty drama. And it's just, I actually think it's really rewatchable. I can't wait to actually go back and rewatch it. So I'm glad you chose it, dude. Like this is a really fantastic movie.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I could sit here and probably talk about this movie for like another 3 hours because it's got the humor, like you said. It's really deep down. Yeah, it's a biopic, but it's also a biopic about a guy who, through fighting kind of his own demons and through, you know, sabotage at every corner, this guy paved the way for a lot of shit. And that shit may or may not be good shit, but it's shit regardless. That, you know, Alan Isaacman said it great. I love that I live in a country where I can pick that up or I can throw it away. You know, that ultimately that's what it comes down to, of like, maybe in the morning I wake up, I want coffee, water, milk, or orange juice. Maybe I want one of those. But if you come in and say, oh, this is illegal because of some bullshit reason and it doesn't hurt anybody, yeah, that's kind of bullshit. I at least want the option of that. I at least want the freedom of that. This movie is philosophically and morally really, really interesting. I think there's still so much meat on that bone when it comes to censorship. I love talking about censorship, especially 80s and 90s censorship, when you started getting the parental warning on albums. You know, when the MPAA started cracking down after Harrison Ford. God damn it. Indiana Jones, when they created PG-13 because of Indiana Jones.
See, for me, it's like, for me, the interesting part of it is for censorship for the advantage of the government. Like, you know, like not for the advantage of the people, but for the government, like to protect the government's interests. So, and God, again, I'm comparing it to the Post because the Post is a censorship for the advantage of the government as they try and conceal important information about the Vietnam War and things that, you know, are necessary for the public interest, like things that it is important for the public to know. So like things like that, man, like I'm just like, God damn it. Like that really interests me, man. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Fundamentally, as someone who was raised not far away from Larry Flynt, but years and years later, like I understand the struggle of trying to break free of that, especially your stuff around you. I can really relate to him in terms of, you know, I love, he says, all I'm guilty of is bad taste and selling a magazine. You know, that's basically it. But people act like that this thing is a world ender when it comes down to it. And unfortunately, living in a state that is very, and don't get me wrong, there's parts of Tennessee that are Nashville is very liberal. You know, a lot of college towns get very liberal. But unfortunately, living in a state that really does kind of want to turn it into Mayberry, like from Andy Griffith. You know, they want to act like this is still the 50s, and not in a lot of places, but there are some holdouts left that seriously need to kind of change it up. And I think that is fundamentally shaped who I was as a person. And I did not fit in a group of people who were like, I was questioning things and saying, hey, this does not make any sense. This does not, this religious thing, or, even though I believe this, I don't think that, if we'd have gone to the same school together and they made you say the Pledge of Allegiance and you're like, I don't believe in the same God, I would be pissed that you had to do that. I've never been a fan of that. I think that's absolute horse shit. Even somebody who went to a private Christian school for multiple years, I was like, this place is bullshit. And I was like, what they're doing is bullshit. I am totally fine with, if you believe whatever you want to believe in, keep it at fucking home and keep it out of my house. And I'm like, and I don't care what it is, and it's all
Christmas
I want.
Message.
Yes, exactly. Keep your goddamn God out of my house. No, I'm just kidding. Ultimately at the end of the day, be nice to people. Don't be a dick. That's my God. And that's my message. That's my Christmas message to everybody. No, I fucking love this movie. I think this is probably a 10 out of 10. I will never get tired of watching this. I seriously, I worked from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. and I repeatedly watched this as I was working. I didn't sit down and just watch it 6 times back to back. But I would just restart it as soon as it stopped, because I just loved this world of hanging out and doing drugs, banging unprotected sex, and
nice.
Maybe possibly fucking Jimmy Carter's sister in a peanut farm. But ultimately, it's also crazy. We really didn't talk about the shoulders that Larry Flynt rubbed of, political intrigue and, smut peddlers and, a lot of presidential shit. Jackie O, Jimmy Carter, the Supreme Court, like a lot of crazy shit for a guy who just sells a porno magazine. And it's really quite interesting. But I fucking love this movie. If you want something very interesting on censorship, you know the band Twisted Sister?
Yeah, I've heard of Twisted Sister.
We're not gonna take it. No. Okay. Their lead singer, Dee Snider, had to go before some bullshit committee that was like Al and Tipper Gore in the late 80s or the early 90s about censorship in music. And he absolutely pulled an Isaacman and just ate that ass for breakfast. And he shows up in like blue jeans that are cut up, a sleeveless blue jean vest with like a t-shirt. His hair's down everywhere. He pulls a piece of paper out of his back pocket that's like all folded, and he starts to read this like unbelievably amazing speech and just destroys them. And apparently Dee Snider and Twisted Sister had written some song that was about their bass player's throat surgery. And it was kind of a graphic song. And Tipper Gore, Al Gore's wife, was like, oh, well, this song is about sadomasochism and BDSM. And he goes, I would affirm that if Tipper Gore found sadomasochism and BDSM in that song, she was looking for it. And I was like, oh, nice. Fuck. Like, it's really good. I strongly urge anybody to check that out. I think that anything with censorship, anything like that is really, really, really interesting. But I think that's going to kind of wrap it up for us, guys. It's been a great year. I wanted to end this podcast on a bang. I think we've done that so far. I really enjoyed this episode. If you want to check out any of our stuff, we tagged socials at the beginning. But big thing that if you have any questions or anything like that, if you can't find something, it's probably at midnightdoublefeature.com, or you can go to patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature. Sign up for the green room. It's $5 there. Crazy year. If you can't support us, if you can't spare the $5, stop by, rate and review us on iTunes. That's free, and it helps the podcast immensely. Really helps us out of the gate, with other podcasts, and kind of sets us apart. We hope that you guys have a safe and a fun Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever the fuck you celebrate, Boxing Day, whatever the fuck you celebrate. We hope you guys enjoy it. Go rub one out on us. We'll see you guys later.